at that point, of course, by the challenges of keeping in touch with his then girlfriend, now wife, while she was a student at university. Basically, they kept missing each other, trying to keep in contact. She didn't have airtime and he could call her back, but, never really able to align. So he wanted a solution that would allow people in the position of his then girlfriend to just send some kind of a buzzing option. Long story short, Vodacom took up the idea, developed it into what has come to be known as Please Call Me. My goodness, has it been a journey for Nkosana Makate. The journey continues today in the Constitutional Court. I said it's poetic, but then you have to ask, will it be poetic justice? That's the question. Will it be poetic justice at last for Nkosana Makate? It's back in the Constitutional Court, this matter. Few matters will ever serve before the Constitutional Court twice. It's really one of those rare occasions. The first time around, what was to be determined was the question of whether or not he was the inventor of Please Call Me, and whether or not there was a contract between him and Vodacom that said he would be given a certain percentage for that idea. That's now settled law, guys. Let's not discuss that. Let's not debate that. And I say that because when I read through Vodacom's own heads of argument that will serve before the Constitutional Court, some of the nuggets that come through from that about whether or not the idea was Nkosana Makate's. At paragraph 19, they say, Mr. Makate's idea was brilliant. Vodacom used it to develop PCM, its PCM service. PCM is Please Call Me. Then they say at paragraph 20, Mr. Makate's buzzing option memorandum proposing his idea was dated 21 November 2000. His idea was novel at the time, etc., etc. There's quite a number of those instances where even they acknowledge that he came up with the idea and they used it to found this Please Call Me idea. I know that you've seen in recent months writings that were seeking to now reopen this case and re-challenge the question of whether or not he came up with the idea and he can be called an inventor of the idea. Well, I say we just need to look at Vodacom's own concessions in their papers before the Concourt and move on. What's on question now is the amount that he's entitled to. And again, on this, you hear a lot of different figures thrown around. He wants 20 billion rand. He wants 45 billion rand. He wants 65 billion rand. Well, read his papers. They're out there in the public. And in his papers, he's got models that he has put forward that were accepted by the Supreme Court of Appeal. And he says if those models are followed, what he's entitled to comes up to about 9.4 billion rand. The Vodacom CEO, in trying to broker the impasse the last time, had determined that it would be 47 million rand, 47 million rand would be offered to Nkosana Makate, an offer that he rejected. It's a fascinating story. At one point in my career as a reporter, I covered it, but it has outlasted me as a reporter in the field. So it's back in the courts this morning in the Constitutional Court. We'll talk about it in the second hour of the show. And then I want to touch on another matter, the frustrations of airline passengers at King Palo International Airport in East London yesterday. Again, flight delays and cancellations and reroutes to airports such as, King Shaka International Airport in Durban, as well as rerouting back to Johannesburg for some flights. About a few weeks ago, we spoke to Mpumi Mpofu of the airports company South Africa, and she was explaining that at the heart of the issue are landing procedures that have lapsed. So this is an issue between the Air Traffic and Navigation Services and the South African Civil Aviation Authority. Now, I'm not saying that I've diagnosed and I know for a fact that this is the issue that was at play yesterday. I'm simply saying that there's been this outstanding issue about procedures that have to do with landing that need to be renewed between ATNS and Civil Aviation Authority. And the explanation from Mpumi Mpofu at least was that when those procedures have lapsed and then there's bad weather, the standard response in the aviation industry is to then cancel and say, don't land because we can't guarantee your safety. And that often leads to some of the cancellations, certainly at that airport. So we'll need to get some answers from the authorities that are responsible for those issues. Give me a call, weigh in on some of these issues. I'll take your calls. The number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. Of course, we have all of your regulars lined up over the next 3 hours. And Musa with the news updates every half hour. Rob Byrne with your traffic updates every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan is watching your sport throughout the morning. Dauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. And of course, Sipho Mandula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Good morning to you, Anne. So
Good
you can tell I've
morning.
got a bit of energy because, matters of law are under discussion this morning.
Definitely
in the
picked it up.
Constitutional Court.
Definitely picked it up.
I imagine that story is top on your diary.
It is, and the case will be heard for the second time, this as the battle for compensation continues. But it is an interesting case. And, hopefully the end is near.
Yeah, hopefully it will be settled once and for all. It can't keep coming back like a boomerang. Yeah.
True. Stories that we are also looking at. We continue to monitor the retrieval operation of illegal miners in Stilfontein. We know that the first phase of the plan to clear the site has been completed, but now it's expected to take a few more days before it moves underground to actually rescue the miners. And this also while the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria will hear the main application from the Society for the Protection of Our Constitution over the illegal miners that are said to be trapped in Stilfontein, and trapped being the operative word. The matter stood down on Tuesday to allow the judge and the applicants to go over the answering affidavit that was filed by the respondents, and the court on Saturday granted interim measures pending the finalization of the main application, which in summary ordered that the mine shaft in Stilfontein must be unblocked for emergency personnel and that no person should block it. The bail application of the diamond dealer Louis Liebenberg and his wife also expected to resume in the Bronkhorstspruit Magistrates Court. The case relates to an alleged investment scam in which investors were allegedly swindled out of more than 4 billion rand. And the MK Party to mark its first anniversary in December, and the MK Party saying it seeks to restore confidence, that is during the anniversary celebration. So we have details on what emerged yesterday at the media briefing. I'm looking at the where it announced its activities ahead of its first year anniversary of the party taking place on the 15th of December. The Equality Court in the Eastern Cape will today also kick off proceedings. That's in a hate speech complaint against the former DA MP Ronaldo Gous, and the South African Human Rights Commission initially instituted legal proceedings under the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act of 2000 against Gous. Then it follows a video that surfaced showing Gous allegedly calling for the killing of black people using highly offensive and derogatory language. And this video was originally posted on a YouTube account in 2010. And then ministers leading the multidisciplinary teams in government responsible for the national response to instances of foodborne illnesses will lead a media briefing, and this is to outline government's action plan to manage foodborne illnesses. And it does take place after police discovered warehouses selling expired food, mostly of foreign origin, in Durban. So some of the stories that we will be focusing on this morning.
All right, thank you for that. And Musa will be giving you news updates every half hour here on the Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So in terms of the weather, here's how your day will be shaping up. We have a few warnings, 3 of them. The first one is a yellow level 4 warning. It says severe thunderstorms resulting in damage to settlements, property, vehicles, infrastructure, disruptions to municipal services in the extreme southern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. The second is a yellow level 2 warning for severe thunderstorms resulting in localized damage to settlements, property, temporary structures, and difficult driving conditions in the southern and central parts of KwaZulu-Natal and the Wild Coast and adjacent interior of the Eastern Cape. And the last one is a yellow level 3 warning. It says severe thunderstorms resulting in heavy downpours, large amounts of small hail, and excessive lightning are expected along the south coast and adjacent interior of the Western Cape, mainly in the early morning. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria is fine, becoming partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 32. Johannesburg will be fine, becoming partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 15 to 30. Mbombela will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 20 to 29. Polokwane will be fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon, 17 to 30. Mahikeng is cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 20 to 33. Bloemfontein will be partly cloudy, becoming cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers by the afternoon, 16 to 31. Kimberley will be partly cloudy and windy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 19 to 31. Cape Town, partly cloudy with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 25. George, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 18 to 22. Gqeberha will be cloudy with light rain in the morning, but scattered showers and thunder showers from the afternoon, 18 to 24. East London will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 19 to 28. Durban will be partly cloudy, becoming cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers from the afternoon, 21 to 30. Richards Bay will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers from the afternoon, 23 to 31. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers from the afternoon, 20 to 26.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
At 21 minutes past 6, let's turn our attention to this story now. The Russian President Vladimir Putin is open to discussing a Ukraine ceasefire deal with Donald Trump, but insists that Ukraine must abandon its ambitions to join NATO. This is according to an exclusive report by Reuters. Reuters also reports that Russia may also be open to withdrawing from the relatively small patches of territory it holds in the north and south of Ukraine. For more on this story, I'm joined on the line by Gustavo de Cavallo, a senior researcher on Russia-Africa ties at the African Governance and Diplomacy Program at the South African Institute of International Affairs. Good morning to you, Gustavo, and thank you for your time. So it seems a bit jarring for me that we are talking about the possibility of a ceasefire based on this exclusive report by Reuters when on the ground, on the battlefield, we've actually seen an escalation of airstrike, of drone attacks, and the involvement of North Korean troops on the side of Russia, as well as the long-range missiles being sent by Ukraine into Russian territory. It's jarring, is it not?
No, it is indeed, but I think what we need to understand is what countries are at the moment doing. There is increasing pressure and expectations for negotiations to be held in the coming months and conversations between the different countries. And what countries are doing now is basically setting up their initial position at what they would like to see. But it doesn't necessarily mean that this would be the terms that would be eventually accepted. It's from a bargaining point of view, we would see countries like Ukraine presenting what is their position that they would like to see, and we would see countries like Russia doing the same. From a negotiation point of view, each of these issues will be discussed, and I think what is important here, particularly in identifying a sustainable solution for the conflicts is to increasingly looking to the root causes of the conflicts, is increasingly looking to what are the compromises that can be made and accepted by each of the parties, and not so much focusing too much at this stage into these ideas of what is the end goal that each of them. Those lines are going to be moving at some point.
So in terms of the lines on territory, on the ground, there has been, I don't know, from what I'm reading, Russia would be unlikely to be willing to yield any territory to the east of Ukraine that it has seized. And at the same time, there's been this reading that says, because Ukraine has made some incursions into Russia, the Kursk area. So does it then come down to issues about territory, about how much do you hold on to, and bargaining power at any eventual negotiations about a ceasefire or even a peace deal?
I don't think this would be the only things that will be part of that. I think certainly territory is the most visible and the most controversial aspects of these negotiations. There will be a number of other points that both Ukraine and Russia would eventually be interested in and will be presenting as part of those debates. Will be in relation to mutual security and in the sense of how much Ukraine will feel secure, how much Russia will feel secure. There will be, of course, an important role that the United States during the second Trump administration will play. Because the key question here is what we saw, at least in the last 2.5 years, was two countries that were not negotiating and identifying diplomatic solutions for the conflict, partially because each of the parties felt that they could win the war in the terrain. Right now, I think for them it becomes much more complicated, especially when we see a lower tendency of the US from 2025 to provide the levels of support that Ukraine has received. And all of those aspects will be part of an eventual a dialogue between the two countries that will not only be about territorial integrity, certainly a fundamental issue for Ukraine, and certainly the areas that are currently under the control of Ukraine in Russia, and you mentioned Kursk, all of those will be part of it. But we will have a lengthy and probably quite complicated discussion happening from next year.
And the other demand, of course, from which, at least from the reporting of Reuters, Vladimir Putin would be unwilling to yield, is the Ukraine abandoning its ambitions to join NATO. From what we know about Donald Trump's predisposition towards NATO and the various contributions by the various countries that form that alliance, but also his general disposition to some of these international alliances and organizations, what makes him someone who will be interesting to watch in terms of how he navigates, for instance, that particular demand by Vladimir Putin?
Absolutely. I think the NATO discussion will be one of the most central ones in identifying a negotiated solution for the conflicts. We know that Russia would be more interested in a role played by Ukraine that it's far less a line of those with NATO and trying to find some kind of a neutrality position within there. Certainly for Ukraine, that is not on the table at the moment. And we would have to see in that sense, and particularly when it comes to NATO and the European Union, that will be certainly another issue of discussion in there, is to see how the US will present their positions and how they will pressure other countries to do so. But it's important not to disregard other European powers, and particularly those that are feeling increasingly uneasy with the prospects of what happened in Ukraine happening with them. So it's important to look into how countries like Poland, how countries like Germany will be looking into that. And that, for me, I think will be one of the most complicated parts and can have other trickle-down effects in other points. But it is important here to mention that at this stage, we are speculating and looking into entry point positions from each of these countries rather than what the strategies that will be presented in an eventual debate and dialogue between the different parties.
And I don't know about you, Gustavo, as a parting shot. I don't know about you, but I've been waking up with a distinct sense of dread whenever I read the stories about the U.S. has now approved Ukraine to use missiles to strike deep into Russian territory, and then it's followed by a story that says the Kremlin has revised downwards its threshold for the use of nuclear weapons. So it's interesting that it might be Donald Trump that we all look to try and avert a nuclear war.
You're absolutely right. I think it brings some of these strange contradictions that we see in international relations on a day-to-day basis. But it also we need to see also that for countries like the U.S. and in terms of their transition now between the Biden administration to the Trump administration, will be seeking to potentially gain some space on the ground and to be able to regain some of the territory that has been occupied. And all of those, to a certain extent, is still connected to this midterm to short-term idea that there will be some kind of negotiation happening in the near future. So it's how they position themselves rather than just increasing the scale of the war, and that's at least how I see it at the moment.
All right. Thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Gustavo de Carvalho, a senior researcher on Russia-Africa ties at the South African Institute of International Affairs. Let's head on over to Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu says it is the obligation of Buffelsfontein gold mines to provide relief for the illegal miners who are still underground at an abandoned shaft in Stilfontein in the northwest. This is contained in the answering affidavit deposed by Lieutenant General Tibelo Musikidi on behalf of the department. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says an investigation has been launched to establish from which country the imported expired food discovered at a warehouse in Durban is coming from and where it was to be dispatched to. Mkhwanazi and the Premier Tamin Tuli yesterday led a team that discovered at least 2 warehouses in the south of Durban storing expired food items, alcohol and medication. And the Electricity Minister, Hossein Suramakgopa, has again appealed to the households to upgrade their prepaid electricity meters before the November 24th deadline. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
We take you to KZN with some real proper backlogging going on this morning. If you're Durban bound, coming out of Pietermaritzburg, heavy queues there between Ashburton and Linfield Park. Something's broken down perhaps or crashed around that Linfield Park exit, and looks like you're probably into a single lane. The traffic is quite extreme leaving Pietermaritzburg. Also a broken down truck in the roadworks between Umgeta Road and Spaghetti Junction. So the N2 South coming through from Inunda roadside is very heavily backed up for this time on a Thursday morning. And the N2 South at Prospect and the closure at Joiner Road already queuing traffic in that area. The N2 South to the Prospect and to the Joiner Road exit is very slow. Joiner Road Bridge and Prospect Road through that area very busy with diverting traffic. All of that a little bit busier this morning than you would normally expect for this time on a weekday morning. Gauteng looks generally okay. There's some pressure coming through Midrand, R55 down to Crowthorne looking very slow. Cape Town still no traffic lights. Baden-Powell Drive at Strandfontein, that was busy yesterday. It will be busy again this morning. And the earlier crash at Brackenfell on your way in near Brackenfell Boulevard on the N1, that scene has been cleared and the traffic flow has normalised pretty quickly. Highways after that are busy. The N1 from Belleville through to Sable Road and the N2 inbound from the airport to Mowbray Main already pretty full across all lanes. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning. So Sri Lanka in the crosshairs of the Proteas, and they'll be boosted by the return of the captain, Themba Bavuma.
Themba Bavuma
Yep.
is back
Yep.
and ready to bat. And
Yep.
I guess what? It's great that he is back, because he isn't just about cricket. He is the kind of guy that, makes leadership exciting for Test cricket for South Africa particularly. And I think Coach Shukri Conrad is looking forward to the encounter with Sri Lanka, calling it high stakes, saying it's a quarter-final, in inverted commas, for the ICC Test Championship, and the Proteas must win 3 of their remaining 4 matches to secure a coveted spot in next year's final at Lord's. Now, there's been a rigorous fitness test that Captain Bavuma had to go under. And Conrad also knows that the team will be determined to play really good cricket and the potential to reignite passion for Test cricket in South Africa. With Sri Lanka ranked 3rd and the memories of their 2019 series win still fresh, the Proteas are facing a tough challenge but see an opportunity to do something special. Rugby news, Rassie Erasmus has decided to allow Oxenshire to rest for Saturday's clash with Wales, causing the Springboks to reshuffle the front row. Nsher started last week's test against England in London, coming in the first half with a nasty gash above his knee, and the match against Scotland in Edinburgh. But Erasmus and his coaching team deciding that it would be best for him to rest this weekend, which means Volker Low has been drafted into the starting team for the final test of the outgoing tour. Thomas du Toit, originally named to start at tight head, will take Nsher's place at loose head prop. Soccer now, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Manqoba Ngqithi says he's delighted to see the strides Bafana are making under his counterpart Hugo Broos. The Downs mentor was speaking ahead of the Carling knockout final against Magesi FC in Bloemfontein, but was asked for his thoughts on the national team. He did share, however, that the Sundowns coach and Broos had their fair share of public squabbles.
I think he has faced a lot of criticism in the past, when people did not understand what he was trying to do. But I think he has proven so many people wrong. And sometimes in life you must accept that it's God's way. Sometimes God, when he wants to put you in the podium, he does not want you to be at the podium and there is no spectators. But sometimes when you face all these trials and tribulations and people doubting the capacity of Hugo Broos, and when he does what he does, now everybody becomes the audience, and we must applaud the work that he has done with the team, because he's come from a position where not many people thought he would do so much, and it's exciting.
More soccer news. Former Rangers and Sunderland manager Michael Beale has been appointed assistant coach to Steven Gerrard at the Saudi Pro League club Al Ettifaq. Now, Beale joins up with Gerrard, again having previously worked as his assistant at Rangers and Aston Villa. And golf news, Tyrrell Hatton has been named in the Great Britain and Ireland team to face continental Europe in the 2025 Team Cup in Abu Dhabi. Hatton's inclusion is a boost for the Englishman's chances for competing at next year's Ryder Cup. The 33-year-old has represented Europe in the past 3 Ryder Cups, but his participation at next year's matches against the United States in New York has been in doubt following his decision to join Live Golf. However, Hatton has returned to DP World Tour action in recent months after appealing against the sanctions the tour imposed on him for playing Live Golf events. That's a wrap of your sport. More for you, top of the hour for SAFM. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
For that, let's turn to Ndawling Lechela. And you've not told me this, Ndawling, but I know for a fact NVIDIA is one of your favorite companies. Tell me about them and why they are doubling their sales in light of its new generation chip picking up.
Morning, Thulas. I just find NVIDIA really interesting in this AI age. And yeah, I won't even lie. It really is one of my favorite companies.
I knew it. You probably hold stock there.
Hey, I'm not going to say anything. Now, despite reporting another record quarter, NVIDIA's share price took a knock, Thulas. Now, this comes as the company missed elevated expectations from bullish investors who expected Nvidia to exceed its own forecasts. Now, looking at those numbers, the group sales almost doubled and earnings surged. Nvidia further revised its outlook upwards for the rest of the year. Numbers aside, investors were more interested in progress of its fairly new chip Blackwell and whether it can keep up with demand for it. Now, Blackwell refers to a family of server products based around Nvidia's next generation AI chip, and companies like Microsoft, Oracle, and OpenAI already use that chip. Investors Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang confirmed that the rollout is on track, and he signaled that Blackwell sales over the next few quarters will be limited by how many chips and systems Nvidia can make, not how much it can sell. Now that the numbers are out, attention has shifted to the impact the earnings could have on the broader market this week. In a note, Bank of America strategist said Nvidia's earnings would likely dictate the near-term direction of the market, considering that it's one of the most valuable companies in the world with a market cap of $3.5 trillion.
To this now, why is the ECB warning of escalating trade tensions and the potential impact that they may have on the Eurozone economy?
So, Thulas, the ECB sounding the alarm on rising global trade tensions, saying that they could pose a risk to the euro area economy. In its latest financial stability review, the ECB notes that weak economic growth has surpassed high inflation as the primary concern for the 20-nation eurozone. This caution comes despite the eurozone's economic growth reaching a 2-year high of 0.4% in the third quarter and headline inflation hitting its target at 2% in October. And the ECB also noted that financial markets have become more volatile with further fluctuations likely due to high valuations and risk concentration. The ECB's Vice President, Louis de Guindos, highlights the fragile growth outlook, pointing to geopolitical risks, weak consumer consumption, and uncertainty surrounding the new U.S. administration's policies. Interestingly, though, the ECB's concerns emerge as Europe itself adopts somewhat of, protectionist measures, imposing tariffs on China's car market to shield its own auto industry. This move also then raising questions about potential consequences of retaliatory trade actions and the impact of global economic stability.
All right, lastly, your first recap of trading on the markets here at home and elsewhere in the world?
So stocks taking a bit of a breather yesterday with U.S. markets mixed. The Nasdaq closing down 0.1% in yesterday's trading session. It seems like traders aren't really impressed by Nvidia's third quarter numbers, even as the AI giant delivered record earnings. The mood very different here at home, with the JSE ending yesterday's session in the green following that upbeat inflation print. The all-share gaining close to 0.9% by the close. In currency markets, the rand losing some ground as emerging market currencies tank on the back of increased geopolitical tensions. It's currently sitting at 18.11 to the dollar. Meanwhile, in Asia, stock markets in the red as traders remain cautious and are reluctant to make more significant moves, keeping an eye out on the escalating tensions between Ukraine and Russia, and also digesting the People's Bank of China's decision to keep rates steady despite the slowing economy there in Beijing.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechela. She's back with her second update for you just after 7:30 here on the Morning Brief.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
18 minutes to 7. The National Treasury has announced plans to withhold grant payments to a handful of municipalities because of their debt to water boards. The Department of Water and Sanitation has warned that 2 of the country's 7 water boards face bankruptcy due to municipal debts. Treasury says the blocked funds will be released once municipalities begin paying off their current accounts. Let's turn now to Sean Phillips, who is the Director General in the Department of Water and Sanitation, for that conversation. Good morning to you, Mr. Phillips, and thank you for your time this morning. So, if I understand correctly, we are talking here about the Machalis and the Vaal Central Water Boards. You've been warning for quite some time that they run the risk of becoming bankrupt. How much rope do they still have, or have they run out of runway, to mix my analogies there?
Good morning, Thulas. Good morning to your listeners. According to our calculations, unless these few municipalities who haven't been paying their current invoices to the water boards start paying their current invoices, there's a risk that these two water boards will go bankrupt within the next 6 to 12 months. Sure.
That's a dire assessment. What would be the implications if that eventuality came to pass?
Well, for example, the Vaal Central Water Board provides water to all the municipalities in Gauteng. The way the system works is that the water boards buy raw, untreated water from us as the national department, and that's to cover our costs of building the dams and maintaining the dams where the water is stored. The water boards then provide a bulk service on behalf of the municipalities where they have water treatment work, so they abstract or take the water out of the dams and they then treat the water and supply it to the municipalities. So a water board uses the same water treatment works or a number of its water treatment works to provide water to a number of municipalities. If a water board goes bankrupt, it'll stop being able to function, and it'll stop providing treated water to all the municipalities it serves, not just the few who haven't been paying.
Sure. And behind the issue that these water boards face is the non-payment by municipalities. How bad is that situation? Which are these municipalities that have contributed to plunging these water boards into this kind of financial crisis?
To us, it's a minority of municipalities. So for Vaal Central, for example, it's just 2 municipalities where we've asked National Treasury to withhold the equitable share as a way of getting the municipalities to pay. But Vaal Central Water has about 10 or 12 different municipal customers. So, but because these 2 municipalities are large customers of the municipality, they have the potential to bring the water. Sorry, they're large. These 2 municipalities are large customers of the water board. They have the potential to make the water board go bankrupt if they don't pay their current invoices.
Yeah, and these are the Machabeng in the Free State and Kopanong in the Free State as well, which owe about 7 billion rand and 708 million rand respectively.
Yes.
What's the status with the other 5 water boards?
The other 5 water boards are not in danger of going bankrupt. There's 2 of them which we're a little bit worried about, but they're not facing bankruptcy, which is the Amatola Water and Lepeli Northern Water. They're facing some cash flow challenges because of non-payment by municipalities. And then our 2 biggest water boards, which serve Gauteng and the eThekwini and surrounds in KZN, are Rand Water and Umgeni Utugela. They are fine financially, but they do have some municipalities which are not paying. But for example, in Gauteng, the major customers of Rand Water are the major metropolitan municipalities, Johannesburg, Tshwane, and Ekurhuleni, and they are all paying their invoices to Rand Water. But there are some local municipalities in Gauteng which are not paying Rand Water, and for 2 of them, Rand Water has also asked us to ask National Treasury to withhold the equitable share. But those are minor clients of Rand Water, so they're not creating any threat to Rand Water's financial viability.
How complex is the picture made by the fact that water boards are not your typical SOE. So if someone is listening and thinking, this will never eventuate, at the final minute, National Treasury will step in with a bailout, or they will borrow against a guarantee from National Treasury. It's not that simple, is it? This is why you are turning to this remedy.
The water boards have always been financially self-sustaining. So they don't get any money for their operations and other activities from the national government. Rand Water has been there for more than 100 years and has never received a cent from the government. So if the government were to step in and start subsidizing the water boards, it would raise questions around whether we're going to stay with a system where water is basically a self-financing function in government, apart from the grants which go to municipalities for infrastructure backlogs, and the portion of the equitable share which goes to municipalities to enable them to provide free basic water to the indigent. But apart from that, the financial model of the whole country is that water, like electricity, should be financially self-sustaining. In other words, users of water should pay for the water, and that money should be used to cover the costs of providing the water.
Right. Mr. Phillips, I'm sorry, I do need to ask you about the situation around the water crisis in Gauteng, especially in Johannesburg. We've been covering it for quite a bit of time, the water throttling that is being introduced. Where do we stand with that at this moment?
The underlying problem in Gauteng is that demand has increased. But the amount of water in the integrated Vaal River system, which supplies Gauteng with raw water, hasn't increased over the last 10 years. So there simply isn't enough water in the integrated Vaal River system, which consists of about 20 dams, to meet the needs for Gauteng on a sustainable basis currently. To address that, we are busy building a huge new additional dam in Lesotho, to complement the existing 2 dams in Lesotho, which provide Gauteng with water. And that project is underway and should start providing some additional water into the integrated Vaal River system by 2028. So the way it works is that we don't allow Rand Water to take more water out of the integrated Vaal River system than is sustainable, because Rand Water needs to be able to provide a steady amount of water to the municipalities. And what is happening is that because of the increased demand in the municipalities is occasionally more than the amount of treated water that Rand Water can supply. And when that happens, the reservoir levels in the municipal reservoirs starts going down, and then becomes very difficult for water to be pushed into the high-lying areas. So the key things that are being done to address the problem is that we are focusing on completing that project in Lesotho to build the additional dam. The second key thing is that the municipalities must improve their work to fix the leaks in the distribution system, and that is ongoing, and there are various initiatives of the municipalities to improve their performance in that regard.
All right.
The municipalities like Joburg, for example, is also busy with a number of projects to build more reservoirs and more pumping stations so that it can store more water, so that it can survive these peaks in demand. And then finally, we are appealing to all the residents, because all of us need to help to solve this problem. If the demand is high, and the demand is also high because the average consumption levels are very high in Gauteng. So we're appealing to all residents to use water more sparingly.
Absolutely.
We only need a moderate decrease in average consumption to be able to move away from these water supply disruptions.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Sean Phillips, who is the Director General at the Department of Water and Sanitation.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
The crash delays on the R21 this morning. Now, it's a big one. The R21 South, so your airport bound coming out of Pretoria. The crash between Olifantsfontein Road and the Engen services there opposite Tembisa. So airport bound, very heavy, but it is having an impact on the northbound side, which is also the side with a couple of lane closures for roadwork. So upshot there is very heavy backlog, southbound and northbound, both ways in that section between Bobsfontein and Olifantsfontein Road. If you're on your way to Pretoria or on your way, importantly, for flight connections. Make sure you got plenty of time to get through. And 12 and R24 routes coming in from the east towards Galilee's interchange, very busy. Pretoria East, we've got a big queue of traffic moving slowly on Solomon Mashlungu down towards Old Farm Road Junction. So if you left the sort of Silver Lakes area, trundling very slowly through Pretoria East. Durban, a couple of breakdowns, one on your way to Durban, leaving Pietermaritzburg, stationary truck around Linfield Park. That traffic seems to be moving a little bit better though, so maybe that's seen as just being sort of recovered. There is a stationary truck into Spaghetti Junction. The N2 South is a heavy queue this morning through the roadworks, and that broken down truck queues all the way back through to Inanda Road territory. Cape Town, earlier crash that we reported, N1 inbound at Brackenfell, that's all being cleared up. It is a little bit slow at Brackenfell. We've been seeing it this week. This week, it's just coming in from sort of Kraaifontein to Brackenfell. It is just slow with traffic, and then it gets heavy on the M1 from Durban Road right through to Kuiberg interchange. N2 is already busy from Robert Sobukwe towards Hospital Bend, and the N7 jam-packed from Vangate Mall moving up through Langa towards, I was going to say Beaufort Circle, but it extends right up to a very busy Viking Way junction near that Epping fire station. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Svali Weekend on a high note with Final Analysis on Sunday night. Tune in to Final Analysis every Sunday night and stand a chance to win a hamper worth 10,000 Rand, courtesy of Diadora and SABC Sport. Final Analysis, the premium wrap-up show, giving you match highlights, final scores, post-game reactions, expert analysis, and sport news weekend roundup of the local and international arena. Catch Final Analysis every Sunday at 8 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and 10 p.m. on SABC 3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We've Got It All. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So Black Friday is almost upon us. It's time for us to have that conversation about money. Debt counseling experts and economists have warned consumers to avoid getting into unnecessary debt this Black Friday. The shopping frenzy will take place on the 29th of November. Experts say that before making any purchases, consumers should compile a list of items they genuinely need. Let's pick up the conversation with Annalyn van der Poel, who is the Chief Operations Officer at Debt Rescue. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. So the warning is that before making any purchases, consumers should compile a list of items they genuinely need. Now, that's hard to do when you are being bombarded with bargains and all sorts of specials, as will happen by November 29.
Good morning, and thank you for having me, and good morning to the listeners. Indeed, it is. It's very difficult. I mean, I think if you open any of your community papers at this point, or go on your social media or open your mailbox, we're being flooded with notifications of things on special and getting SMSs about it, etc. So it definitely is the marketing out there with regards to Black Friday specials is enormous, and it's everywhere. But from us as a consumer perspective, we really have to be very cautious and really focus on buying items we need and want, because as much as we have seen an interest rate reduction and with a bit of luck we might see some more coming, the reality is the cost of living crisis is far from over. Our general goods are so expensive still that there's very little space in our budget for us to unfortunately be sitting in a position where we're splurging on the wants rather than the needs.
What's the context for the warning that you are sounding in terms of indebtedness of the average household in South Africa and the ability to keep up with the repayments of that debt?
Well, the reality of what we're seeing is that the majority of South African consumers are spending in excess of 60% of their income on debt repayments, as it is. And also realistically, when we know this has been substantiated by some of the major banks, saying that most consumers are living off of credit for the better part of the month. They've run out of money 5 days after payday, of cash, and are using credit to put food on the table. So that is the real context of what South African consumers' budgets look like, and that paints the picture of be very, very cautious if you are approaching the buying, and it's not just Black Friday. I mean, as we know by now, it's Black Friday month, and we've got the festive season starting soon, and means it's just going to be more, is to really, really be very cautious in your planning, do your research, check prices, know prices before you start buying.
Part of the context at the moment is that the two-pot retirement system has kicked in, and a lot of people are making withdrawals from the savings pot of their retirement savings. Does that help to ameliorate the situation? And what should be the approach? Debt versus whatever boost a person may get from sources such as withdrawing from their two-pot system?
So the two-pot system has been a very interesting one, and especially in the understanding of it and what it exactly means for us, since its inception. So obviously knowing that the maximum amount that a person could withdraw was 30,000 rand. So that's the maximum that would have been transferred into that. And then obviously from here on forward, 1/3 of your contribution will then go into that pot. A lot more people have taken up the withdrawal option than what was anticipated, and obviously that still gets taxed. So we've got to remember that it might be a short-term solution for many, and it does make sense if you are literally having to put food on the table to do that withdrawal. You can do it once a year, but in the long term, obviously, you've got to think of your future and what does this mean for future you when you get to retirement. Taking out 1/3 of what you contribute, what is that going to mean for your budget in the future, and is it not going to worsen it? So it could help, and we believe a lot of people have looked at that and are taking it up, but I don't think the sustainability here is going to have the fruits of what consumers are eating.
I guess what I was asking is about channeling whatever windfall comes through towards lowering debt. What's the wisdom? What's the conventional wisdom around doing that?
Absolutely. If that is what you intend on using it for, that makes 100% sense. Get your debt down as quickly as you can. Apply any additional funds you can. Avoid getting into more debt. And if you've got a windfall in whichever form, if your intention is to apply it to debt, that is a fantastic idea.
All right. And then lastly, if someone says, I'm already heavily indebted, these specials on Black Friday will not come again. You understand that temptation that says, I can't get into it. My situation can't be worse than what it is at the moment.
Yeah, that's why I say it's a tricky one. So firstly, know your prices. Really make sure that this special is truly a special. A lot of marketing indicates that the deal is better than what it is. But more significantly is if you are going to be using this, avoid using credit for it, because ultimately, if you're putting it on credit and paying it off over 6 months, the interest impact is probably going to nullify the saving you're making in any case. So planning is so critical when it comes to buying anything during this period.
All right, I've got to thank you for those sage words of advice there. Annalyn van der Poel, who is the Chief Operations Officer at Debt Rescue. Bringing us to 7 a.m. Time now for a news update with N. Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, High Court to hear Stilfontein illegal miners bid for relief, and Electricity Minister calls on prepaid users to upgrade before the deadline. Good morning. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu says it's the obligation of Buffelsfontein Gold Mines to provide relief for the illegal miners who were still underground at an abandoned shaft in Stilfontein in the northwest. This is contained in the answering affidavit deposed by Lieutenant General Tibelo Musikidi on behalf of the department. Proceedings stood down for today at the High Court in Pretoria to allow Judge Brenda Nokicher to peruse the documents and the applicant, Society for the Protection of Our Constitution, to reply. The organization seeks an urgent interdict from the court that the unlicensed diggers be provided with emergency relief in the form of water, food and blankets, among others. Zuleka Godashe reports.
The respondents rely on the Mine Health and Safety Act, which stipulates that whenever an emergency occurs at a mine that requires the deployment of mine rescue teams, the employer and any mine rescue service provider notified must take reasonable measures to ensure that the required mine rescue teams are deployed as soon as possible. Therefore, they argue that the obligation to provide the relief sought rests not with the respondents, but with the Buffelsfontein gold mines. They submit that the Stilfontein mine shaft is a crime scene, lending itself to the presence of law enforcement officials whose constitutional mandate is to combat and investigate crimes. They add that they have taken all necessary steps to preserve life and dignity.
KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says an investigation has been launched to establish from which country the imported expired food discovered at a warehouse in Durban East coming from and where it was to be dispatched to. Mkhwanazi and the Premier Tami Ntuli yesterday led a team that discovered at least 2 warehouses in the south of Durban storing expired food items, alcohol and medication. In the second warehouse in the area, police also found counterfeit goods. Mkhwanazi says a thorough probe will assist them to obtain all the information.
It's part of the investigation. Obviously, on the paperwork, we can tell already that so and so imported this thing into the country, so and coming from this particular country. So at least that we have an idea. But what we then have to investigate further, we need brand owners to also give a statement to certify some of these goods that yes, indeed, it's not theirs, they're not genuine. So that it becomes part of the case. So we need to know the person who brings it in, where do they send it to, who do they sell it to, and the eventual final destination.
2 miners have sustained burn wounds after a fire destroyed about 100 dwellings in Overcome Heights in the South Peninsula. Disaster Risk Management Centre spokesperson Sonika Latakhan says the blaze displaced more than 300 people. She says teams from relevant services have been activated to address damage, including replacing toilets.
An official count will be given once the registration process is completed. 2 miners sustained burn wounds and were taken to hospital. Further details in this regard can be requested from EMS. City services have been activated to attend to infrastructural damages, including replacing toilets on site. The city's electricity services was on site to fix overhead electrical lines, and solid waste will start clearing the site as soon as possible.
Electricity Minister Hussein Siramogopa has again appealed to households to upgrade their prepaid electricity meters before the November 24th deadline. Over 2 million households which receive electricity from Eskom and municipalities are yet to be migrated to the new system. Electricity entities will stop dispensing KRN1 electricity tokens, thus making the old metering system inactive. Ramogopa has briefed the media in Pretoria.
That's a technical specification. Like I said, it's got a timestamp. It's ending on the 24th of November 2024. We can't extend it. It's a technical issue. There's very little we can do. But of course, Eskom can't be blamed for the extensive amount of work that the team has done. And we're intensifying that. And the team has been intensifying it. But we thought we must lift it at this level so that there's an appreciation. I do anticipate that come the 25th, there will be people lining up, protesting, expressing grievance, who are saying that we still have another 4 days to do this exercise.
And finally, Palestinian medics say dozens of people have been killed in northern Gaza after Israel pounded several areas with airstrikes in the early hours of this morning. Rescue operations are underway. Israel's military says its offensive in northern Gaza is aimed at stopping Hamas from regrouping. Recapping the top story, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu says it's the obligation of Buffelsfontein gold mines to provide relief for the illegal miners who are still underground at an abandoned shaft in Stilfontein in the northwest. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Black Friday equals unbeatable deals and mega savings. With Outsurance, it's Black Friday every day. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask for 500 Rand cash. Make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Monthly savings if they are cheaper, or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 30754 to switch and save today. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, where you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Heavy backlogs between Pretoria and the airport this morning in both directions. There is a crash on the R21 South after Olifantsfontein. It's between Olifantsfontein Road and the Edgen services, so airport bound being held up by that. Then on the northbound side, there is an impact because of that crash, and you've got that double lane roadwork closure as well. So while it's heavy going towards the airport and your flight connections, it's even heavier on the northbound side. Big queues from Bupsfontein already as you make your way up past the services in towards the Clayville area. Pretoria East looks like a couple of traffic lights down. Solomon Mishlangu, Bronkhorstspruit Road, and then Solomon Mishlangu. Heavy queues into the old Farm Road junction, that run from sort of Silver Lakes going into the Pretoria East area, very heavy. Durban, the broken down truck stuck before Spaghetti Junction. The roadwork's been there a while, and that's pushing traffic heavily back towards the Inanda Road. N2 North is queuing between Kumashu and Gateway. If you're on your way that side towards the airport, you'll need a little bit of extra time to get through again today. And Cape Town, big pressure on the N7. This is Jake Skirville Drive coming up from Vangate Mall through the N2, all the way through to Beaufort Circle on your way to sort of Goodwood from Epping. It's pretty heavy. And Marine Drive is currently queuing up all the way from Bayside through to the paddocks at Milnerton. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby. Rassie Erasmus has made a late change to the Springboks team that will face Wales this Saturday in Cardiff. And golf news, South African golf will celebrate one of its most prestigious titles when the South African PGA Championship tees off at St. Francis Links. All the details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 9 minutes after 7 on this Thursday. We are into the second hour of the morning brief here on SAFM. Good morning, South Africa. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. Coming up in the next few minutes, we'll focus on that story. I commented in my opening earlier on just how poetic it is that it was on this day, on the 21st of November 2000, that a young trainee accountant at Vodacom, Nkosana Makate, fired off a memorandum to his bosses where he was suggesting what was known then as a buzzing option that would allow prepaid users who didn't have airtime to prompt a call by those who had airtime or by contract subscribers, and that came to be known as Please Call Me. 24 years later, the battle continues for Nkosana Makate at the Constitutional Court. It's round 2 at that court. You rarely ever see a case go to the Constitutional Court twice, but this one has, and arguments will be presented. At the heart of the issue this time around is not the question of whether or not he invented or introduced the idea of Please Call Me to Vodacom. That is settled by this point. At the heart of what the conversation is about today, it will be about what is the reasonable amount that he's entitled to as compensation from Vodacom. The offer from the Vodacom CEO a few years ago was 47 million rand, but if you read his papers right now, he's saying that the models that were accepted by the SCA would bring that figure to about 9.4 billion rand. So it's all going to be fascinating to watch. So we'll bring that up within this half hour. Then we'll focus a bit also on issues to do with public spending, the spending of public money. 2 conversations, one with Duma Qubule, the economist, who talks about cuts to spending on key employment-creating programs such as the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program, as well as the Expanded Public Works Program and Community Works Program. But at the same time, we'll also talk to the MEC of Health in Gauteng, Nomantu Nkomo Ralihoku, about the first 100 days of that department and whether or not they are channeling spending and resources towards the right areas of the health system in Gauteng. So briefly, that's what's what's coming up within this next half hour. All your regulars also locked and loaded for you. I'll also take your calls. The number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about OUTsurance.
My name is Alan. I'm 71 years of age and I live in Douglasdale. I'm paying 554 Rand a month for my 2022 Nissan Magnite.
Want a car insurance premium that'll blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote. That's out to 30754. It's quick, it's easy, and it could save you hundreds of rands every month. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So let's start with this conversation. The research associate at the Social Policy Initiative, Duma Qubule, says National Treasury's obsession with permanent austerity will decimate work and livelihood opportunities in the country. In this year's budget, National Treasury has announced plans to cut funds to 3 public employment programs that have previously created about 1.8 million work opportunities. These are the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program, the Expanded Public Works Program, and the Community Works Program. Let's bring in Duma Qubule into this conversation. Good morning to you, Duma. Firstly, is it your sense that National Treasury's commitment to, what you call austerity, I suppose they would use a different word, fiscal discipline, etc., is it your sense that it has become permanent as opposed to responding to the interim situation in as far as the national fiscus is concerned?
Thank you, Thulas. Nice to speak to you for the first time on this platform. But anyway, so the word is fiscal consolidation or austerity, it's different ways of saying the same thing, first appeared in the budget review in 2012. So the government has been implementing this program for 12 years without any success. So in those 12 years, GDP per capita, an imperfect measure of average living standards has declined. So we have, as an average, South Africans become poorer over the past 12 years since they've been implementing these structural reforms and austerity. Yeah.
So these are
unemployment has decreased. Has soared during that period, and now we're the second highest. We've got the second highest unemployment rate in the world after Eswatini. Unemployment of 41.9% and 12.2 million people who do not work. Yeah.
So the budget cuts, as we call it, colloquially in the media, the budget cuts have hit many areas of spending, including education, as we've been reporting quite at length. But in your latest writing, you focus specifically on these programs that are about creating work opportunities and livelihood for many South Africans. Tell me why it's problematic that these have been hit: the Presidential Employment Stimulus, the Expanded Public Works Program, and the Community Works Program.
Well, in his State of the Nation address in July, President Ramaphosa said we are going to exponentially increase these public works program. And after the ANC NEC, he repeated the same statement. The ANC has also got a target for 2.5 million work opportunities. But you have a treasury that has got this fanatical obsession with cutting. Like, unemployment should be the number one policy priority of all institutions in South Africa. And there is no scenario where it makes sense to cut these public employment programs by more than 50% and add to the unemployment that we have as a crisis and as a country. That is just insane. It makes no sense whatsoever, and it can't be justified by anything. The Treasury is focused on this budget deficit. That shouldn't be the priority. The priority should be unemployment. Yeah.
You might hear someone counter that by saying these programs, specifically the Expanded Public Works Program and the Community Works Programs, were not yielding the kind of work opportunities, the quality work opportunities that they should yield, that perhaps the idea is to invest in the productive sectors of the economy and stimulate those so that they create jobs as opposed to running programs whose returns are not so great?
You know, I was at a recent, conference by Harambee, Youth and Unemployment Conference, and the head of the Social Employment Fund, which is a fund it's part of the presidential stimulus, set up by it's managed by the IDC. So he said this program, which provides tens of thousands of opportunities to young people, 2 days a week work, he said it gives hope to people. So for me, anything that gives hope to people who are desperate, who don't have jobs, who don't have full-time jobs, I think that it's adequate return on investment for us as a country, given the sense that our economic policies haven't produced the GDP growth that is required to create jobs. So these public employment programs are hope for millions of people. And in terms of the quality, I'm the first to agree that the quality is not good in some of these programs. The expanded public works program provides 1 million work opportunities a year to people. People who are doing a lot of things that are useful in society, infrastructure and so forth. So it does a lot of useful work, but I have a problem with the wages that the people are paid on the public works program and the conditions so we can improve the quality of these opportunities, and we could create more quality jobs as well.
So we shouldn't be throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Thank you for your contributions this morning, Duma. That's Duma Kobule, who is a research associate at the Social Policy Initiative.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
Everyone's looking for Black Friday savings, but have you thought of saving on your car insurance? Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your premium, ask for 500 Rand cash. Make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Monthly savings if they are cheaper, or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 30754 to switch and save today. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, where you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
20 minutes after 7, let's turn our attention to this now. The Gauteng Health MEC, Nomantu Nkomo Ralihoko, briefed the media on her first 100 days in office last week. During the briefing, she announced various interventions implemented by her department in the past few months. These interventions include improvements in the treatment of cancer in the province. Let's welcome the MEC into the conversation. MEC Nomantu Nkomo Ralihoko joins us now. Good morning to you, MEC. So let's start on that issue of all right, I'm told that there's a bit of a challenge with the line to MEC Nomantu Nkomo Ralihoko. We'll see if we can get her back on the line to continue with that conversation.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Let's look back on the match with our rugby correspondent, Khotso Selo. Another tick in Rusty's book, I suppose. If you look at the year so far, 10 wins out of 12, and the 2 losses that we've had have been 1-point losses to Ireland and to Argentina. So I suppose very, very deserving of number 1 ranking in the world.
Very much deservedly, Michael, and I think the fact that he was able to use 50 players in this entire season just shows you how well the squad depth is in this Springbok setup. I think the planning has been precise. He did mention that it didn't look as fluid as it should be looking, but that's because he's chopping and changing every week. I mean, last week against England, he made 11 changes. At this current juncture, there is no team that can rival the Springboks in terms of depth, in terms of them evolving their game plan and taking things to a new height.
Top Sport on SAFM.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, let's see if we can establish a connection with MEC Nomantu Nkomora-Lehoko, who's been reflecting on the first 100 days in office. Good morning to you, MEC. So among the measures, and I really have to start there, among the improvements that you are citing is the treatment of cancer in the province. Can you really make that claim when we've faced this oncology crisis over a period of time? As you and I speak today, there's a court case that is going to the High Court brought by Section 27 on that very matter.
Now I can say to you, we've completed the process of outsourcing the radiotherapy services, because that was a problem that we had. You remember in some of our institutions like Steve Biko, where I'm getting in now, we have the machines that we can use, but we had a shortage of nurses. So there was one machine. So on that side, we've improved, because what we've done again is to make sure that we, in terms of the capacity, we capacitate our teams, especially in that area. But now, as we speak, the of the project, which is focusing now on implementation of those two hospitals. Remember, there are other two hospitals that we were supposed to build, which is Trisani Parakwanas and Dr. George Mukari. So the contractors are on site. I went there personally because I didn't want to come to yourselves, because you will be asking me that, because it's one of the critical areas that we should have looked into. So that one, I am clear in my mind. I know things have been sorted out. Contractors are on site. We are working. We are trying to make sure that then we signed even the memorandum of agreements with the companies that are supposed to help us, private sector in particular, that are helping us to ensure that some of the pressure that is at Steve Biko and Charlotte Matlake, we ease up that pressure. So those are the things that we've done, the measures that we've done to ensure that things are being done in our hospitals, because that's part of our intervention. And again, patients now between public and private sector facilities have been carefully planned, with the system is designed to ensure that the patients are simply managed. Because I'm sure it was going to be your worry again, how are you going to manage this process between private and public? And these are professionals that we know that they are on top of their game.
Right.
Especially as part of these patients are the prostate and breast cancer patients that will be assessed at Charlotte Matlake. And then it's Steve Biko. Before being referred to any private facility, the radiotherapist will check them, and this process is subjected to quality checks. So there is a person that is just going to monitor that to reduce these waiting times that have been there and improve the quality of care of our oncology.
The other pain point for healthcare users in Gauteng has been the quality of infrastructure, as well as the service, which ironically we're told is informed by a philosophy that says, quote unquote, I serve with a smile. You and I know that there have been a flurry of complaints coming through from users. So in these 100 days, what concretely can you point to that has improved the service as well as the infrastructure in hospitals?
We have improved our patients' care quality, to be honest with you. I remember when I arrived in the department, I was receiving more complaints than compliments. If you can go now, because we're recording everything in our system, we can show you so much improvement that we've done through this campaign here to I Serve with a Smile campaign. We've trained all the hospitals, all the officials in staff in the hospitals, starting from the security gate to the receptionist, to the administrator, up to the doctors, because we're introducing this I Serve with a Smile campaign. Doctors were not part of this when we started, but us.
MEC? Yeah, we seem to be having a bit of a... MEC, we have a bit of a challenge with your line. Let's see if we can then get you... Now. Yeah, let's see if we can get you again to take these conversations forward so that we get here on a much better line. That's the MEC of Health in Gauteng, Nomantu Nkomora-Lehoko.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
So please call me inventor. Nkosana Makate will return to the Constitutional Court today for the second round, hopefully the final round of his bid to compel Vodacom to pay him what we've now sort of figured out comes up to about 9.4 billion rand for his idea, which raked in hundreds of millions, if not billions, of rand for the mobile communications giant. Coincidentally, today also marks 24 years since Makate presented his idea to Vodacom. Let's welcome into the conversation Isaac Mahlangu, who is a senior reporter for the Sowetan. Good morning to you, Isaac, and thank you for your time. So let's start there. This is the second time that this court case comes before the Constitutional Court. How different is this one from the one that was decided in 2016?
Thanks, Thulasizwe, for the opportunity. Well, in 2016, Makate was fighting for something totally different. He was fighting for recognition, and at the same time, he was fighting to bind Vodacom to an agreement he had with their then director of product development, Philip Gisler. So the Concord did rule in his favor, ordering Vodacom to recognize him as a
at the airport this morning. A crash on the R21 southbound just after Olifantsfontein Road. So that's a heavy queue if you're airport bound. But there is a knock-on onto the northbound side as well. And the northbound has the double lane closures going up to Olifantsfontein. So although it's heavy going south towards the airport, it's even heavier going towards Pretoria with queues back as far as the Bronkhorst, I beg your pardon, the Babsfontein exit back towards the R25. Pretoria East struggling along. Solomon Mshlangu heading towards Old Farm Road from Silver Lakes. That's a very heavy backlog to work through. Limwood Road under some pressure as well, moving through Limwood Manor towards the N1 highway. That's quite an unusual backlog. N1 South busy, but nothing outrageous, just queuing from Brockfontein down to about New Road before you're out of it. A lot of roadworks off the highway, Olifantsfontein Road around the Old Joburg Road. So again, very heavy backlogs there. And no traffic lights on Joburg's N1. Listen to this, N1 Bayers Nordia, N1 Malabongwe, N1 Winnie Mandela, N1 Rivonia. No traffic lights at any of those junctions. Durban's N2 South remains heavy, coming down to a broken down truck before Spaghetti Junction. Queues back to Inanda Road. N2 North towards the airport, quite a backlog as well from Queen Nandi Drive all the way through to the Gateway exit. And Cape Town Marine Drive, that's heavy again this morning from Bayside Mall at Tableview, queuing all the way through Sunset Beach down towards the Racecourse Road, Paddocks Junction in Milnerton. And no traffic lights on the Baden-Powell Drive at Strandfontein. Day 2, quite a backlog coming through from Mitchell's Plain through that junction towards Muizenberg. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. So all the action is in Cardiff in Wales this weekend, and Rassie is making some late changes to the Springboks team.
You know, Rassie Thulasizwe is always...
Keep you guessing.
Right. Always playing chess while the rest of us are playing checkers. So I think he likes to make
Murabaraba. We're playing Murabaraba. He's playing
Murabaraba. Exactly, you know. So, yeah, this is Rusty Erasmus for you, Thulas. We're still figuring out, but he's got some winning moves, it seems, when it comes to reshuffling the front row. Rusty Erasmus allowing Oxenshire to rest for the clash with Wales. Enshire started last week's test against England in London, coming in the first half with a nasty gash above his knee, and the match against Scotland in Edinburgh. But Erasmus and his team decided that it would be best for him to rest this weekend. As a result, Wilkelo has been drafted into the starting team for the final test of the outgoing tour, while the replacement bench remains unchanged from the one named by Erasmus on Tuesday. Thomas du Toit, originally named to start at tight head, will take Nche's place at loose head prop. More rugby. Warren Gatland says he wants to continue as Wales head coach as he prepares to face the world champions, the Springboks, in Cardiff. Gatland has overseen a record 11 successive test match defeats, and another loss this weekend would see Wales go a calendar year without winning a test for the first time since 1937. Gatland adds he understands the pressure of international rugby with performances and results.
I'm just focused solely on preparing the team for this week to do the best job we can. You know, if you start thinking about other things and going outside and talking about other things, then it's a distraction that you don't need. You just got to focus totally on preparing the team the best we can. We've spoken as a group this morning, the forwards, in terms of what we can do with regard to improving the performance from last week, and the backs have been pretty honest as well. So if you start thinking about other things, it becomes a real distraction.
Now, the Proteas in cricket are gearing up for a high-stakes 2-test series against Sri Lanka, described by coach Shukri Conrad as a quarter-final, in inverted commas, for the ICC Test Championship. The team must win 3 of their remaining 4 matches to secure a coveted spot in next year's final at Lord's. Captain Themba Bavuma returns after a rigorous fitness test, ready to lead the charge starting the 27th of November in Durban. Now, more cricket. Women's cricket. Western Province star Faye Tunnicliffe and Laura Goodall make their much-anticipated return to the national squads for the upcoming home series against England. Tunnicliffe, the hard-hitting top-order batter, is back in the T20I squad after an impressive domestic performance. Meanwhile, Goodall has overcome a hamstring injury, earning her spot in the ODI squad. Now, the series for the Proteas women promises to be a tough test, with England always a formidable opponent. Let's hear from Faye Tunnicliffe.
I think a side like England, they're going to come back with a vengeance, especially because obviously our team made it further in the World Cup. So they'll probably have a bit of a vengeance coming back. They're on an incredibly strong side. They play a lot of cricket over in the UK, so it'll be really good competitive cricket.
Tennis action. 3-time Davis Cup winners Germany eased into the semi-finals with a 2-0 victory against Canada. And the 2-time Grand Slam finalist Jasmine Paglioni capped a breakthrough season by leading Italy to their first Billie Jean King Cup title since 2013. She defeated Rebecca Stramkova to seal a 2-0 victory over Slovakia in the final of their women's team competition. And finally, golf. South Africa's golf will celebrate one of its most prestigious titles when the South African PGA Championship tees off at St. Francis Links today, with the field showcasing some of the brightest young stars in the local game. Casey Jarvis, who finished second, returns. The 21-year-old is looking to draw on everything that this year has taught him, including experience of playing in his first major at the US Open. George Coetzee continues his comeback from injury and returns to the tournament he won for the second time in 2022. That's how we wrap up sport on the morning brief. Headlines, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
For that, let's turn again to Ndauling Lechela. Ndauling, tell me about business confidence in quarter four. You are saying that it has improved.
That's right, Thulasizwe. Corporates are upbeat about the local economy. That's as business confidence improved in the fourth quarter. The RMB BER index rose to 45 points from 38. This is the highest level since the first quarter of 2021. Now, improved sentiment is due to constant electricity supply and political stability, which further supported better business conditions in the country. Upbeat morale in the manufacturing and retail industries boosting the index, but we're still seeing subdued confidence in new vehicle sales. Of course, this comes as interest rates remain elevated. Morale in that segment is expected to improve as more rate reductions filter into the economy, making borrowing cheaper. While the print is a welcome move, chief economist at RMB, Zamhlanga, notes that more than half of the participants in the survey are unsatisfied with business conditions in the country. So we aren't out of the woods just yet. Many have pointed to the ongoing water crisis in Gauteng, a slow turnaround at Transnet, as well as the increase of construction mafia activities. There's just some of the concerns weighing on sentiment.
Tell me about moves in the asset management space. Seems to be consolidation there. 91 and Sanlam.
So in M&A activity, 91 will be taking over Sanlam Investment Management from South Africa's largest insurer, Sanlam. The deal is estimated to be worth 5 billion rands and will result in Sanlam securing a 12.3% stake in 91, making it a significant shareholder. Now, as part of the agreement, Sanlam will appoint 91 as its active investment manager for single-managed local and global products. 91 will acquire all issued shares in Sanlam's active investment management business and take over its assets under management, totaling around 400 billion rands. In turn, this will boost 91's assets under management. Now, looking at the merit of the deal, it'll benefit 91 immediately by increasing its profits and dividend payments. For Sanlam, the deal may slightly reduce profits initially, but it's expected to bring long-term advantages and increase profits starting from the third year. Now, the deal is subject to regulatory approval, and both companies have confirmed that there won't be any job losses.
Yeah. Lastly, then, in this hour, Ndauling, recap for us U.S. close, Asian markets, as well as the JSE close.
So sentiment is quite sour in Asia as traders are watching tech shares in that region. Those shares tanking following NVIDIA's results, the AI giant posting record numbers, but just not enough to impress investors. With that, we're seeing the Japanese Nikkei taking the biggest knock, down 0.75%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng losing about 1/3%. In Wall Street, futures in the red following yesterday's mixed finish. Earnings in focus on that front, with investors sifting through retailer Target and NVIDIA's numbers. And then coming back home, sentiment really positive as local inflation eases below the SARB's target range. With that, the all share closed 0.9% higher, fueled by gains in the financial 15, up 1.2%. The rand, in the meantime, on the back foot, weakening as the dollar strengthens. It's sitting at 18.13 to the greenback.
Always with her eye on the money. That's Ndauling Lechela. She'll be back with one more update for you just after 8:30 here on The Morning Brief.
At Business Outsurance, ensuring your business is our business. Switch to Business Outsurance today, and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Get affordable cover to protect your business against everyday risks. Get the best business insurance at the best price for your business. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Back-to-back Women's T20 World Cup runners-up, the Proteas face England. They both want to walk away from Buffalo Park with big smiles. What is summer without cricket? This is the first Women's T20 International Contest, where summer cricket comes alive. South Africa clashes with England on Sunday 24 November at 2 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. So the SADC Heads of State Summit has taken place in Harare, but it seems trouble just won't go away in Mozambique. And this time around, the trouble has come knocking on the door of Venancio Mondlane.
Refreshing morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa. Indeed, Thulas, what we are picking up from Mozambique, the Attorney General yesterday filed a lawsuit against opposition leader Venancio Mondlane, who's currently in exile. And the charges are around inciting this unrest that have been going on, Thulas. They are also implicating him in a plot to attack the president of Mozambique. Now, these charges, as you know, Thulas, is still in exile. They are also putting some civil damages in terms of 30 million metikash in terms of the damages of properties in the capital city, Mozambique. But when you look also, Thulas, in the Troika yesterday, few presidents attended, Thulas, and most sent their representatives. I picked up from Namibia, Malawi, Comoros, Lesotho, Tanzania, Angola, Eswatini, Seychelles, as well as us, Thulas, South Africa, not having our heads of, the president being part of the Troika. Zambia also was absent, and Mauritius. Hence, Thulas, I think they've taken lightly the issue of Mozambique, but also they were focusing on DRC and Namibia.
Yeah. Speaking of SADC and elections in the region, we're about 6 days away from elections in Namibia. Tell me about the launch of the observer missions that is already taking place.
Thulas, indeed, yesterday there was a launch of the SADC Observer Mission in Namibia. They have deployed 65 observers, Thulas, drawn from 8 SADC member states to 14 regions of Namibia. The mission is led by the former Speaker of Tanzania, Semamba Malindi, is the one who's leading this mission in Namibia. And we know, Thulas, AU will be sending their mission also, and probably even the Commonwealth, as Namibia decides next week on the 27th of November.
Not only is it rule by decree in Mali, Sipho, it's also hire and fire by decree under military command.
That is quite true, coming from General Assimi Goïta yesterday signing a 3-article text. And as you know, Thulas, they use the word decree. Sometimes say it is an order, it is a law, that they have removed their prime minister who was appointed after the military coup in 2021. The prime minister, Maiga Kokala, he was fired, Thulas, for criticizing the junta last week in one of the commemorations of the recapture of Kidal. They say he was wearing the military attire, and being a civilian, he was voicing that he has never been involved in the political transition of Mali. Hence, yesterday, he was fired with his cabinet as well. So Colonel Assimi Goïta might have to appoint a new prime minister as well as a new cabinet.
Here's a name I haven't heard in a while, Kizza Besigye in Uganda. Some intriguing developments around him in Kenya.
You know, he was going to Kenya for a book launch, Thulas, and what happened that he was arrested and been arraigned to the military courts of Kenya as well under Uganda, saying that he was involved on some illegal firearms and he was seeking military support to undermine the government of Uganda. His trial has been remanded to the 2nd of December. As you said, Thulas, we have known about Bobi Wine recently, but this is the man who has been always troubling Museveni, President Yoweri Museveni.
M7. Lastly, Sipho, take me back to 21 November 1989. What happened in around that time in the dying days of the Southwest Africa?
That's quite true. 35 years ago, they said the last remaining of the then apartheid SADF was leaving Namibia. During that time, you'll understand there were many talks between the South African government and Namibia between 1989 that led to 1990, where Namibia was liberated from the then apartheid South Africa, and the first president of Namibia was Sam Nujoma. Very important that Battle of Kwitakwana in 1988, Thulas also was linked to this processes of SADF even to move out of the Southwest Africa, including Angola and Namibia. Asante sana Thulas, as was in your conversation. And I know there's a lecture tonight, Thulas. Yeah. I'm not sure whether I will attend. I would have wanted to be there.
No, you must come through. You must come through. I'll see you there, Sipo. Thank you. Of course, Sipo is talking about the SAFM lecture that is taking place in Boksburg this evening. It will be addressed by former Minister Naledi Pandor. I certainly look forward to being a part of those proceedings. Hope to see you there.
Everybody needs an island adventure. Think about it. White sandy beaches, tall coconut trees, the sun shining down on you. Moments that will have you singing, "When the water's so blue." Well, this is no typical island adventure. 18 contestants will spend 39 days on the island of the idols, strategizing, backstabbing, forging and breaking alliances. Here, their meals aren't guaranteed. They eat what they catch. One mistake or betrayal might get them kicked off the island. It's a battle for $1 million on Survivor 39. Channel your best reality with Survivor Season 39. Island of the Idols, Thursdays at 6 p.m. on S3. Open up.
We definitely know what good insurance is. Our insurance don't delay when it comes to any claims. If something happens to one of our vehicles on the road, service delivery is the main thing.
They make sure that you are a satisfied customer from the beginning to the end.
It's definitely a win-win with our insurance.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take one call. Let me take a call from Mike in Newlands. Mike, good morning. You want to talk to me about unemployment this morning?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I do indeed. Yeah, well, I just wanted to comment on the interview you did with the gentleman who unfortunately his name I didn't catch, but he was talking about the fact that even with the expanded works program, it does give hope. And I would suggest to him that, in fact, that's a false hope. And I think it's rather I won't say cruel, but I know he has the best intentions. But the fact of the matter is, we can have these discussions about hope and expanded work programs and stuff, but if we're not building and growing our economy, we're just cutting up the same slices of the cake. And the people on the expanded work programs create nothing. They don't create any wealth for the country. We're simply giving them taxpayers' money that could be used in something more constructive. And to do that, Thulasizwe, we must just look and see why we're in the mess we're in. Just recently, we lost 6,500 jobs from Mossel Bay. Total went to Namibia because they gave up trying to deal with the corrupt ANC government. So now we've lost 6,500 jobs just recently now, not just a lot the other day, and that's gone to Namibia. We've lost Starlink. Starlink now is growing through Africa and it's likely to become the biggest satellite service provider in the world. And guess what we do? We go to Elon Musk and say, we want 30% of your business for our back pockets. We've got economic black empowerment, we've got the unions, we've got the mafia building, we have got so many conditions that we are not addressing. And I think when we do these interviews with these guys, we've got to remind ourselves and the listeners, we are in this mess, not for any other reason that we voted in these crooks, and we have to vote them out. Otherwise, we're just going to have these conversations creating no real benefit to any of the listeners because we just go around in a big circle as we go further and further down.
All right, Mike, I've heard you. Thank you for that. That's Mike in Newlands there raising that issue that has to do with some of the employment programs that he is certainly critical of. The counter to that, of course, is that he says that people are being given taxpayers' money. They're not being given. There is some kind of a service that they give. I get the point that Mike is making that it should be going towards stimulating the productive sectors of the economy. But the argument can't be made that these people are being given money. It's part of the social security net and pathways to employment in a situation that we all agree is not, sustainable in as far as unemployment is concerned. Let's take a quick traffic update before we continue.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Quite amazing. Just want you to consider, if you're driving through northern parts of Joburg, you would have seen this. There are no traffic lights at Beyers Naudé at the N1, at Malabongwe at the N1, Winnie Mandela at the N1, and Rivonia Road at the N1. Those four big consecutive junctions, all without traffic lights. They haven't gone down last night. They are long-term, and they are unattended. And there's all sorts of congestion, particularly Malabongwe, especially Winnie Mandela, and Rivonia Road around the N1 as well. Major delay between Pretoria and the airport, a crash going southbound near the engine services just after Olifantsfontein. So if you're airport bound, having left Pretoria, there's quite a heavy queue there, but it's even a bigger backlog towards Pretoria because you've got that crash impacting northbound plus the double lane closure. So very heavy from Bobsfontein Road as you make your way through past engine towards Clayville and the side road, the Pretoria Road, under quite a bit of pressure as well. Durban this morning, we've had a stationary vehicle. It's a stationary truck all morning, broke down about 6 o'clock just by Spaghetti Junction in the roadwork. So the N2 South remains very heavily backed up coming through from Inanda roadside. The N2 Prospecton stays closed at Joyner Road. There may be a reopening within the next 48 hours, so we'll keep you up to date with that. It could well open a week ahead of schedule. They've been doing terrific repair works 24/7 around the clock through there, so big ups to Sanrail. It looks like a reopening imminent. Still closed today, though, with heavy pressures on the N2 South and on the Prospecton and Isipingo sides. Cape Town, N7, pretty heavy backlogs lying through to Epping, and then we've got more queues moving from Goodwood through to Bosmansdam Road. Marine Drive stays heavy now from Sunningdale right through to Racecourse Road by the paddocks in Milnerton, and still no traffic lights on Baden-Powell Drive at Strandfontein Road. So another morning of queues if you're heading towards the Muizenberg area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take a call from Stephen in Potchefstroom. Good morning to you, Stephen. You want to talk to me about the two-pot system?
Yes, greetings, Thulas. Now, so many times we are advised that when you take out your savings, it will affect your income at the end when you retire. So it's not a good advice. Now, let us say that I need to use these funds just for this month, and then the rest of the years I don't withdraw anything. So now, that being the case, if I take out the money that I take, let's say 2,000, whatever amount, if I take it out, then the following month I take it back and I leave it and I don't withdraw anything until I retire.
Yes.
So it will be a good advice because we are advised it will impact.
I think so. It sounds good to me.
From my salary, I take it and put it back instead of trying to find where my choice is.
Not being an expert, Stephen, I would say that's solid reasoning on your part.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
That's Stephen in Potchefstroom there. Just with some, words of advice and wisdom around the handling of money and discipline in as far as our finances are concerned. Let me welcome Jack Bloom of the DA in Gauteng. And good morning to you, Jack. You want to talk about what the MEC for Health in Gauteng had to say earlier on. It's a pity the line dropped there and we couldn't complete the conversation properly.
Good morning. Yes. The sad reality is that the MEC for Health had more than R500 million to spend on reducing the cancer backlog for radiation treatment. This is since April last year, and she hasn't even spent it. And only now they finally signing agreements with private radiation treatment companies. But it's very sad because there's a waiting list of more than 2,000 patients who urgently need radiation treatment. This is breast cancer primarily and prostate cancer. And I think many of them have suffered and died because of those unnecessary delays. So, she's talked about new cancer treatment for George Macquarie Hospital, Chris Hardy Baragwanath Hospital. That's fine, but it's not going to save people who are on the backlog now, and they urgently need treatment as soon as possible, and it's not happening because of, I really have to say, incompetence and maybe even corruption on behalf of the Gauteng Health Department.
All right, thank you for that. That's Jack Bloom of the DA in Gauteng responding to the conversation earlier on about the first 100 days of the MEC, as well as the issue around treatment of cancer in Gauteng. Let me take a few of your voice notes. I see there's one about Operation Dudula, and I think that has to do with the role that Operation Dudula has played around this issue of registration of spaza shops. Let's take a listen.
Morning to us. It's Manda here in Buhle Park. I recognize what Dudula is doing. Yeah, they can close down all those Pakistanis shops, and also next time they'll be closing down the saloons. Believe me, we'll be walking 5 kilometers just to go and buy bread at ShopRite. No one will get airtime in the night. And some of us will become Shembe congregants with no one to shave us or even to cut our hair. Sorry to our sisters who rely on Mozambicans' saloons. Thank you.
All right, Buhle, I get the point you are making, and your use of language is very creative. Mandla in Buhle Park, that is. Your use of language is quite interesting. He says we'll become Shembe congregants, some of us. He's talking about, of course, that beards will grow and grow, and just making that allusion there. Quite interesting, but an interesting point that you make about the gap that will be left open from your perspective if these spaza shops owned by foreign nationals are closed in the way that Operation Dudula is agitating for. Let's listen to this one on Nkosana Makate's case, which is back in the Constitutional Court.
Good morning, Brad. Tulas. I think this, please call me guy, is greedy. I mean, what is it that he lose? He lost nothing, and then like 47 million, that's a lot of money. If I was him, I was going to take it. I wish that Constitutional Court can have the amount so that he can wake up and smell the coffee. Thanks.
Yeah, I can't disagree more with you. Hey? I completely disagree with you. If you are credited with an invention that the person who's made millions, hundreds of millions, or even billions from your invention that they acknowledge was your invention, you are entitled to something. And if the agreement, which is what it is right now, is that you are entitled to 5%. You are entitled to 5% of all revenue that they made. So the calculation is that if a please call me is sent and then it is returned by a call within an hour, he is entitled to 5% of that revenue that's generated in that way, and for the first 18 years. It's not agreed, in my view, to insist that the calculation should be proper and be done properly. Let me listen to another one also on the same issue.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Vodacom must do the right thing and give Mr. Nkosana Makate what is due for him. He must be compensated, and he deserves to be compensated for his idea. So Vodacom must do the right thing and give Mr. Makate what is due for him. It's Shotis Nyolo in Mafefe, Limpopo.
Yeah, thank you for that. And as I was saying earlier on, there's no longer a debate now about whether or not he came up with the idea or suggested it and invented this idea of please call me. As far as Vodacom is concerned, of course, there's a separate conversation about what MTN was working on, but even Vodacom acknowledges that their idea of please call me was based on his idea, the buzzing option that he put forward. So I guess the question now is about what is the quantum, what is the amount. Vodacom insists that he is not entitled to a lifetime of royalties, but rather a specific amount, and they reject the models that he has put forward. But he insists that if one of those models is accepted, the amount at play will be some 9.4 billion rand, not the 20 billion rand you'll hear bandied about from time to time, not 45 billion, not 65 billion, 9.4 billion rand is what he is talking about. At 8 a.m., let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news. Essential Cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, another Soweto child dies from alleged food poisoning, and civil society's legal action to force treatment for cancer patients. Good morning. Another alleged food poisoning incident has claimed the life of a 5-year-old boy in Diepkloof in Soweto. 3 other young boys are in a critical condition in hospital. It's believed the children took ill after they ate snacks bought from a local spaza shop in the area yesterday. Ward Councillor Brenda Dami has condemned the incident.
The 4 young kids, 5-year-old, went and bought snacks. Hardly 20 minutes after eating that snacks, the other boy became sick and he was rushed in the hospital. Hardly 30 minutes, it was announced that the boy died. The other 3, the friends, were also taken to the hospital. And we're all furious because we can't be losing our children every day. The problem lies with the house owners because they're the ones that are keeping these people in their houses and let them open. I'm just so frustrated.
Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe has submitted that the High Court in Pretoria cannot assist the illegal miners in Stilfontein in the northwest to evade arrest. This is contained in the answering affidavit deposed by the Principal Inspector of the Mines on behalf of the department. The minister cited as the 4th respondent in the matter in which the organisation, Society for the Protection of Our Constitution, seeks an urgent interdict. The High Court will hear the main application today, where the applicant seeks relief that the unlicensed diggers be provided with emergency relief in the form of water, food and blankets, among others. Zoleka Kodashe reports.
The main question contained in the 4th respondent's answering affidavit is what the logic is behind the applicant seeking a mandatory interdict to provide all necessary emergency disaster relief for the suspected illegal miners when an alternative and safer exit has been provided. It's argued that 500 of the unlicensed diggers have already emerged through this alternative route and that those who remain underground are in fact not trapped.
The bail application of diamond dealer Louis Liebenberg's wife, Desiree, is expected to resume in the Bronkhorstspruit Magistrates Court in Tshwane today. The couple, along with 7 co-accused, appeared in court where Desiree's bail application was adjourned. The case relates to an alleged investment scam in which investors were allegedly swindled out of more than 4 billion rand. Thulasizwe Simelane has more.
Desiree Liebenberg told the court last Friday that if released on bail, she will not flee the country and cooperate fully with the investigators. The Liebenberg's 7 co-accused are out on bail. The accused face charges including 42 counts of fraud, theft, racketeering and money laundering. The state is opposing Desiree's release on bail, arguing that she will threaten witnesses and that she is a flight risk.
Cancer advocacy group Cancer Alliance will battle it out with the Gauteng Health Department in the High Court in Johannesburg today. The legal action is an attempt to force the department to spend over 700 million rand allocated to it by the provincial treasury for radiation and surgical backlogs in Gauteng. Thulasizwe Simelane reports.
Section 27 Cancer Alliance and the Treatment Action Campaign says the provision of radiation oncology services is significant in cancer treatment, hence this case is urgent. The groups say when patients do not receive radiation treatment within the recommended 3 months period, their cancer often returns. This leads to the need for additional medical evaluation, cancer staging and sometimes more surgery and chemotherapy before patients can qualify for radiation treatment once more.
The eThekwini municipality in KwaZulu-Natal has approved the transfer of its CCTV cameras from the city's Disaster Management and Emergency Control Unit to the Metro Police and Fire and Emergency Unit for management to enhance crime fighting. In a statement, the municipality says the CCTV cameras are responsible for traffic management, crime prevention and disaster emergency control and fire alerts. The city recently increased the installation installation of CCTV cameras in crime hotspots. Recapping the top story, another alleged food poisoning incident has claimed the life of a 5-year-old boy in Diepkloof in Soweto. 3 other young boys are in a critical condition in hospital. For SAFM News, I am Ann Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS car to 43187. 36-year-old Joy loves Outsurance Essential because it's low-cost insurance designed for older cars. For her 2013 Ford Figo 1.4 Ambiente, she only pays 400 Rand a month. With Outsurance Essential, you get up to 1 million Rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million Rand. Add even more value with the motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS car to 43187. That's car to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top story, the R21 between Pretoria and the airport. Still very heavy queues both ways. The crash going southbound after Olifantsfontein, so that's heavy towards the airport. Knock on from that crash going northbound, plus the double lane closure. Northbound is probably twice as heavy as southbound. Backlogging beyond the Bupsfontein exit. The side road, Pretoria Road, that links you from sort of Whitfield through towards Clayville via Tembisa, is heavy with diverting traffic volumes as well. Durban's N2 South, a stationary truck still with us before Spaghetti Junction. Been there all morning. Traffic very heavy coming down from the Inanda roadside. Prospect and Isipingo very busy as you deal with the ongoing closure of the N2. The N2 South is queuing the Joiner Road. Both sides of the highway very busy on the alternative local routes. Cape Town, there's been a crash on the Potsdam Road just up by the taxi rank. That's holding traffic going towards Killarney Gardens, but also badly impacting routes like Gee Road and Bloberg Road, coming out of Tableview to try and get through that traffic on the Coburg Road. So a lot of pressure that way. Once you get through that and turn on the Coburg Road, there's some more delays as you head down through Theo Marais Park. There's also been a crash on the N7 Jake Skirville Drive at France Conradi Drive, just adding a bit of pressure between Goodwood and Bosmansdown. That road's pretty heavy anyway. That collision just sort of making the delays worse. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby, the final test of the year, and the Boks are gearing up to face a desperate Wales in Cardiff. And we also have tennis action. 2-time Grand Slam finalist Jasmine Paolini. She led Italy to their first Billie Jean King Cup title. Details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8 on this Thursday. Good morning and welcome to the third hour of the Morning Brief. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. I tell you what, I'm watching the screens in the studio here, and I'm watching the reporting of our SABC News colleagues who are reporting about the long queues that are forming at various municipal offices as people are rushing to try and meet this deadline of needing to recode their prepaid electricity meters by the 24th of November, and that's this coming Sunday. The clock certainly is ticking, and Eskom saying that there's no possibility, and so was the electricity minister as well yesterday, that it's not possible to give an extension because this is a technical matter, that these need to be upgraded, and it's not something that's within government's control to say, you know what, let's give you another month or so. So the clock is ticking, the queues are forming at municipal offices. One gets the sense that we're going to need to step up the rate at which we are able to assist people to meet this deadline, because if you don't get to recode the meter by the deadline, you simply won't be able to load electricity tokens that you will have purchased. And in the last few days, I've been hearing a conversation that says you might even need to replace your meter, which won't come cheap, which will come at thousands of rand at the customer's expense. So an all-concerning situation. Let's hope that we can get as many people over the line as possible by Sunday. The other issues we've been watching throughout the morning, of course, is that court case going back to the Constitutional Court that involves Nkosana Makate and Vodacom around the issue and compensation for the Please Call Me idea, which Vodacom acknowledges, even in their papers, that it was his idea that was the basis for them developing the Please Call Me product. Feel free to engage me on these and other issues. You heard in the news there the latest incident of food contamination leading to the death of a child, again in the news there reported by N. Musa. It has become like clockwork, really. We continue to report these. Something has got to give. The number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
It's Valley Weekend on a high note with Final Analysis on Sunday night. Tune in to Final Analysis every Sunday night and stand a chance to win a hamper worth 10,000 Rand, courtesy of Diadora and SABC Sport. Final Analysis, the premium wrap-up show, giving you match highlights, final scores, post-game reactions, expert analysis, and sport news weekend roundup of the local and international arena. Catch Final Analysis every Sunday at 8 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and 10 p.m. on SABC 3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We've Got It All. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Ever tried to paint a wall with only a brush? Or hung a picture on just a nail and a prayer? The contestants on My Design Rules will be the first to tell you good design starts with the right tools. Tune in to My Design Rules every Sunday at 7 p.m. on SABC3 and stand a chance to win a weekend away in the winning apartment. From beginner projects to expert builds, Buco has the tools and materials you need to get the job done. Ready to kickstart your next DIY project? Begin with Buco.
Buco. This summer, we have extra large offers on Ford Ranger XL, XLT, and Wildtrak from only 481,900 for a Ranger XL single cab 4x2. It's the extra large Ranger offer from only 481,900. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer. Optional service plan included. While stocks last. TNCs apply.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
13 minutes after 8. Credit to the initial reporting of the Cape Argus on this story. Residents of the Bo-Kaap community in Cape Town have rallied against what they say is the tourist invasion of their neighborhood. During a protest yesterday, the community sought to shine the light on the what they're calling the detrimental effects of over-tourism on their everyday lives. Let's welcome into the conversation now Osman Shabuddin, who is the chairperson of the Bo-Kaap Civic and Ratepayers Association. So, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Recently, we've been talking about over-tourism as a phenomenon to which people are responding in places like Barcelona in Spain and becoming a concern there. You are saying that it has become a reality in areas like Bo-Kaap in Cape Town.
Absolutely. I think you just need to witness the scene where you find that about 45 to 60 buses come into Bo-Kaap, the smallest area in Cape Town, that basically don't have wide streets or whatever. And you find that all these people, the tourists, being dropped off, walking around, doing whatever but we don't have, on principle, I want to add, we don't have problems with tourism. Tourism creates wealth, tourism creates jobs, tourism, we understand that. But there need to be a mechanism in which we manage these systems. And if the local government cannot manage these systems, we find the chaos that we're finding at this moment in time, which is absolutely hell for us that's living in Bo-Kaap.
Describe to me what that feels like. You describe it as hell. What does it entail? You mentioned 45 to 60 buses and people walking throughout. What is the impact? What leads you to the conclusion that it's like hell?
I think the challenge is that we must also remember we've been staying there all our lives, so we are quite used to having a busy busy streets and things like that because we're in the CBD. But I think what's happened over the last couple of years is the question of our privacy is basically taken away from us. This whole issue starts at 7 o'clock in the morning. Our privacy is taken away. You can't get out of your parking space. You can't even go down the street. Your whole life is impacted by things that you absolutely have no control of. And I don't think that is fair. And we brought it to the attention of the City Council. We drew up plans to try to mitigate that type of situation. And so far, nothing happened.
Mm. What about engagements with the tour operators to try and find a way that's, that balances the genuine interests of a tourism economy in a city that is in high demand, like the city of Cape Town, in an attractive area such as the Bo-Kaap on the one hand, but also your lives, your daily lives and routines not being interrupted?
I would agree that would be one of the solutions, and it's part of the plan. That have been part, and we do engage on certain levels with tourist operators, but we are not the law. We cannot enforce something that basically is not the law. And if other tourist operators want to come into Bo-Kaap without telling us or without doing things what we want them to do, I think there is no control whatsoever. I think the bigger challenge that we're sitting with is we need a management plan going forward. And we need to encourage tourists to be responsible tourists, and particularly the agents, but tourists that brings them into Bo-Kaap, to be responsible. So that there is a balance, a balance between those who... Remember, Bo-Kaap is a living heritage. It's not something that's only brick and mortar. There's people living there, there's people working there, there's people doing the daily things like normal people would do, and that must not be taken away from them. And I think this is exactly the point that we're trying to do. And one of the highlights of the protest is to make sure that the City Council understands that the people are no more. We're not happy about the situation. We've never been happy about the situation. And we don't want to be unhappy towards the City Council. But what we are telling them, please do something and do it together with the community.
Because messages lost in translation and interpretation is something of a reality that we often have to deal with. Clarify for us then one more time, Osman. You don't want, do you, to be understood to be saying tourists must not come to the Bo-Kaap? You don't want a message going out to the international tourism market that this part of Cape Town has become hostile to tourists?
Absolutely, and you're quite correct. We cannot chuck the baby out with the bathwater. If the buses need to be controlled, it means that that doesn't mean that we don't want tourists in Bo-Kaap. It needs to be managed. That's all that we are saying. We welcome tourists into Bo-Kaap, but we also welcome a tourist plan in which more of Bo-Kaap benefit of tourism. And that is something that we have been working on and something that we need to implement.
Yeah.
But I think the challenge is they mustn't get away. But I don't think we must misconstrue this whole thing that we're against tourism. We are not.
All right. Thank you for that. Osman Shabuddin, who is the chairperson of the Bo-Kaap Civic and Ratepayers Association.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? At Specsavers, get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 Rand. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
MasterChef's salty voiceover guide to mispronunciation. Today's word, finale. Origin, Italian. Pronunciation, finale. Meaning the last part of a series. Commonly mispronounced as
final.
As if you are discussing your matric results. Example.
I can't wait to see the final results of MasterChef.
If you insist on saying final, it's okay. Watch the grand finale of Final on November 23, 8:30 on S3. MasterChef, things are about to get salty.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
8:20 on this Thursday, a University of Pretoria expert has argued that there needs to be a focus on addressing issues of menstrual health on the continent. Dr. Lydia Chibwe, a project officer at the Women's Rights Unit of the Center for Human Rights at the university, says policymakers must prioritize menstrual health in education systems by ensuring access to necessary resources for girls. She says through this, young girls will be encouraged to stay in school. She joins me now to take that conversation forward. I take it that, Doc, you make this point because while it seems obvious, perhaps at the policy and implementation level, it's not so obvious.
Yes, it's so. Good morning. Yes, it's not so obvious because we still have many young girls in Africa facing numerous challenges due to menstrual periods. Therefore, there's still much which needs to be done.
Where is the gap? Is it an issue of lack of resources to back up policy intentions? Or is it a matter of being stuck in some of the stigmas that are associated with menstruation?
There are a lot of challenges. Allow me to say a few, which the continent is facing. There is period poverty, where many girls cannot afford to buy sanitary products, and they end up relying on unhygienic alternatives like old cloth or leaves. There's also limited access to sanitation facilities, where some schools often lack adequate water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities, making it difficult for girls to manage menstruation hygienically. There are also cultural taboos and stigmas where menstruation is often considered as a taboo topic, leading to shame, embarrassment, and secrecy about the whole thing. And then there is the lack of education and awareness. In the sense that there's limited menstrual health education, which leaves many girls unprepared for managing their periods. And obviously, there's economic and social inequality, which disproportionately affect girls, making it harder for them to prioritize menstrual and hygienic over basic needs. So there are a couple and numerous challenges that girls are facing.
So what is the impact of those challenges, particularly when it relates to the ability of young girls to stay in school?
Yeah, it leads to absenteeism, obviously. It leads to absenteeism whereby some girls even drop out. And it obviously places them at a disadvantage compared to boys.
Absolutely. Does it help when the leadership at the highest political echelons breaks whatever stigmas may exist by championing menstrual health for girls? I tell you why I'm asking. Recently, I attended a summit, an economic development summit in Abidjan in Cote d'Ivoire, where the president of Sierra Leone was talking openly about, being the champion for menstrual health for girls. Does that help when it's something that, even the leadership doesn't consider to be too taboo a topic, such that even the challenges are not brought onto the table to be discussed?
Yes, it helps very much because if governments are to advocate for policies that put those critical resources into the hands of the girls who need them the most, it would obviously help them. They can make policies that make menstrual products freely available in schools and combine maybe with national programs which enforce sanitation standards. So by doing all those things, it can end the cycle of absenteeism in schools.
Are there policy pathways, as you mentioned, the issue of making menstrual programs and resources freely available in schools? Are there policy pathways that would make that possible? Where, for instance, if governments say, for example, that we simply don't have the resources, are there pathways that would lead to them having those resources to be able to implement such interventions?
I suggest that maybe they can partner with organizations, international organizations that can maybe sponsor sanitary wear for girls so that it can be freely available. They can partner with NGOs and it would work for the better.
Yeah, and just the picture in as far as South Africa is concerned, do you have an idea of where things stand? The private sector, we see NGOs and activists from time to time championing the issue of menstrual health for young girls. Is that moving the needle? Are we having the right conversations in South Africa?
Yeah, I think currently we are doing something, and slowly we'll be there, because I've seen that in some tertiary institutions there are programs which offers girls free sanitary wear. So I think we are doing something. Slowly we will surely get there, especially for the girls in the rural areas who I think need the services the most.
Yeah, and who can forget, of course, during the political campaigning season, that campaign by the EFF at their stadium rally, where they put among the items they put there were sanitary pads on the chairs to make sure that everyone takes something back home. Thank you for this input, Dr. Lydia Chibwe, who is a project officer at the Women's Rights Unit of the Center for Human Rights at the University of Pretoria.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take a call from Lubabalo in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Lubabalo. You want to talk to me about spaza shops?
Yes, Thulas, how are you, man?
I'm very well.
I'm based in Cape Town. So what I've noticed is this, right? In the suburbs in Cape Town, there's certain suburbs that do not have my friend's spaza shops. So I'm saying this because I've noticed the trend with kids doing their last purchases at the spaza shop, and then the next thing they perish. Now, these communities, like, for example, Stellenbosch, Rondebosch, Newlands, Boma Camps Bay, you will never find my friend's spaza shop in those areas. And that should also apply in Lukshini Ekas, because of those regulations should apply all over. We cannot allow young kids to make their last purchases and my friend, and then the next thing the child is gone. Whereby we know very well in certain areas, those people, they don't even have commercial space to even trade. They're not even regarded as an option to trade commercially in places like Rondebosch and places like Bishops, Camps Bay, Sea Point. You won't find my friend there.
So for you, Lubabalo, the solution is to make sure that what you call my friend spaza shops are eliminated altogether, as happens in the suburbs that you mentioned, regardless of what possibilities are there to regulate and make sure that they comply. You're simply saying that they shouldn't be allowed to operate.
Exactly, because of these guys are asylum seekers. So with these guys are asylum seekers, and then they are selling expired goods. And those goods are also not regulated. So we cannot allow a situation whereby, for example, kids who live in Constantia, they don't experience these things. And mostly it's white people, right? They don't experience this. But if you go to places like Soweto, Kukuletu, you'll find kids getting sick and dying.
Gotcha.
You understand? We cannot allow this thing to happen anymore.
Thank you for that. That's Lubabalo in Cape Town there. Let me take a quick voice note, also on the same theme of spaza shops and their regulation.
Good morning. I'm not being insensitive or anything, but I just find this spaza shop thing now very, very annoying and infuriating. When are the parents going to take responsibility? Why are they still giving their children money to go and buy those spaza shops? Can't they just tell the kids to stop buying there? Then the government is blamed and the spaza shop owners. When are the parents going to be taking responsibility? Because by now, surely they know the danger, if I may call it that, of using those shops. I mean, this is nonsensical and unacceptable too.
Yeah, I understand your outrage, but those conversations are a bit difficult, especially where children are concerned. I might tell my child not to buy from, the spaza shop, make sure that they don't, and I don't give them pocket money to do that. But they get to school and they're playing, and in, kids being kids, one child has something that was bought from a spaza shop or somewhere that happened to have that contamination problem, and they share. and in many instances, actually, the report is that they will have shared something, a snack or something, and like that it happens. I think the issue should be we allow kids to be kids, but we do what we need to do as parents, as society, as government as well. And I think that really is where the solution lies. 8:30, let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, another alleged food poisoning incident has claimed the life of a 5-year-old boy in Diepkloof in Soweto. 3 other young boys are in a critical condition in hospital. Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe has submitted that the High Court in Pretoria cannot assist the illegal miners in Stilfontein in the northwest to evade arrest. This is contained in the answering affidavit deposed by the Principal Inspector of Mines on behalf of the department. And further relief is anticipated for South African consumers as the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee is widely expected to announce a rate cut this afternoon following its meeting. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy around Pretoria this morning. If you're making a trip, here's some to avoid. Solomon Mishlangu going west through Pretoria East. R21 between Monument Park and Fountain Circle. N4, Eminathleni Highway heading towards the N1 and the N14. Top of the Ben Skuman Highway up towards the city after Euthius Road in towards the R101. There are some major delays built up around all of those particular routes this morning. R21 South, the crash at Tembisa has been cleared. The airport bound carriageway flowing. R21 North, not so good. Double lane closure up towards the NGN services, still resulting in heavy backlogs after that earlier crash there as well. Broken down vehicle M1 North going into Winnie Mandela, so this still very heavy coming up from the Randburg side. And lots of traffic on the N3 this morning. Queues at Edenvale going north, queues from Alex up into the Buccleuch interchange side as well. Durban, the stationary truck at Spaghetti Junction, has been there all morning. It's in the roadwork mix, so very heavy, still coming from Inanda Road all the way to 4 level. N2 South Prospect and through to the Joiner Road closure remains heavy queues there. There is some talk that road may be reopened to southbound traffic in the next 24 to 48 hours. So some good news coming out from the Sandral operations to repair that bridge. And Cape Town this morning, N1 inbound chockers from Plattercliff Hill to the elevated freeway, N2s at Bunga Avenue, and still busy out of Tableview, Marine Drive, queuing to Milnerton, Kuberg Road, queues up from the refinery down towards Montague Drive. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So Zai, a desperate Wales is a dangerous Wales. That's the warning, according to Jean Klein.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
And I think he wants to rein in those Welsh Terriers.
Yeah.
You know, it talks about the fight in the dog, and this dog is going to be very dangerous because it's desperate.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where we're taking it today. So let's hope that Jean Klein, who's returned after 10 months of injury, proving that you can't keep a good bok down, and he's ready to show Wales that size matters in the engine room. Let's find out now from the Springbok lock, Jean Klein.
Just desperation, eh? Dog in a corner is always a dangerous dog, so I think we're definitely preparing for a big fight, especially in the first 20. I think they're going to come out emotionally, and it's going to be tough going for the first 20, but we have plans, we have things we've set in place to deal with their threats.
Let's go to women's cricket, and the stage is set for an exciting clash this Sunday as the Proteas women will take on England in the first T20 at Buffalo Park in East London. The match is the first in a 3-game series, and all eyes will be on how the Proteas can build momentum and showcase the talent. The action kicks off at 2 p.m. Let's get some insights from the Proteas player Nonkululeko Mhlaba.
Well, obviously we're still proud for the team because it wasn't easy, and for us to make it to the finals, especially in Dubai, that's something else for us, and it shows the hard work. Even though we wanted to bring the trophy at home, but we couldn't, unfortunately. But hopefully next time we do. But now the main focus is the 50 overs, because we have a 50 over World Cup coming up. As much as we have test we're still putting our focus more on ODI.
In the meantime, the Proteas coach Shukri Conrad described the test series against Sri Lanka as a virtual quarter-final as both teams chase a spot in the final of the ICC Championship. The Proteas have a good chance of making the showpiece match, which will be played at Lord's in England in June next year. After dispatching of Bangladesh 2-0 in their two-test series, the Proteas need to win 3 of their 4 remaining test matches in the cycle to make it to the final. Let's go to soccer now, and it's the Magesi FC coach Clinton Larson recalling how in 2012 nobody gave the then Bloem Celtic team he coached a chance to win the Telkom knockout against Mamelodi Sundowns, and then shocked them in the final, winning 1-0. Larson was speaking ahead of Saturday's Carling knockout final against the much-feared Brazilians, saying anything is possible at the Free State Stadium in Bloemfontein this weekend. Now, the 2012 final, it was a win for Celtic, with Larson was assisted by the former Bafana head coach Molefe Nseki, and it was a watershed moment for the Brazilians as this led to the exit of the late Sundowns coach Johan Neeskens, and he was replaced by Pitso Mosimane, who went on to revolutionize the Yellow Nation. Let's hear from Clinton Larson.
We definitely use that moment in history to try to get them to understand that this is possible. Even though, in my humble opinion, this Sundowns team is stronger than the team of 2012. But in saying so, we use those type of situations to say that there's been many an occasion where the underdog has triumphed. Many an occasion in world football, in South African football. And as long as that happens, Magesi Football Club will always have a chance to create one of the biggest upsets in football history.
And finally, tennis action. The 2-time Grand Slam finalist Jasmine Paolini capped a breakthrough season, leading Italy to their first Billie Jean King Cup title since 2013. They defeated Slovakia in the final of the women's team competition. That's a wrap of your sport on the morning brief. There'll be more sport around 12:30 with John Gericke. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again, Dowling. I can't imagine that Zai is the only person who is leaping with excitement around the direction in which the curve of inflation and interest rates is pointing. You're telling us that inflation continues to ease below the subs targets.
That's right, Thulas. And listen, I'm very excited. I'm very happy.
I knew you'd do it, Zai.
For a big cut today. But the last time inflation was at these levels, Thulas, was in 2020. Consumer prices easing to 2.8% in October, beating market consensus of 3%. Now, the slowdown follows inflation of 3.8% in September. The decline in fuel prices remains the main driver behind the inflation slowdown. Between September and October, petrol and diesel prices dropped by 5.3%, resulting in an annual fuel inflation rate of negative 19.1%. The impact of lower fuel prices was evident in the transport sector, with the transport index decreasing by 5.3% annually. Another positive contributor was the food category. Annual inflation for food and non-alcoholic beverages slowed to 3.6% in October, its lowest rate since November 2019. Most food and subcategories experienced decreased inflation, with the exception of sugar, sweets, and desserts, as well as cold beverages. Now, after remaining steady for about 6 months within the 4.5% to 4.7% range, the drop in food and non-alcoholic beverages inflation signals a welcome slowdown in price growth. The print, of course, comes in ahead of a rates announcement today. Consensus is for another conservative 25 basis point rate reduction, but many economists are hoping for an even bigger cut, considering that inflation now sits below the SOB's 3 to 6% target range.
Yeah, 2.8%. That is,
2.8%.
who would have thunk? Darling, the one of the few indices that are not going in the right direction, you are telling us, is growth in retail sales,
Yes.
specifically for September.
Well, sales are up, but the growth has slowed to less.
I see.
In September, the retail sector has clocked 7 consecutive months of gains, right? But purchases only increased by 0.9% in September from 3.3% in August. The largest positive contributor was general dealers. The index there up 4.5% and contributing 2.1 percentage points. So we are seeing local consumers spending their money on essentials at stores nearby. The largest negative contributor was retailers in textiles, clothing, footwear, and leather goods, down 5.5%, contributing negative 0.09% to the overall print. This also being evident in updates from results from local fashion retailers. During the 6 months into September, TFG reported a 2% decline in sales. The owner of Pep and Ackermans, Pepco, recently warned of an impairment worth 2.7 billion rand, citing difficult trading conditions at some of its stores. Now, September was the first month where we saw the two-pot withdrawals come through, so analysts had expected stronger sales. And going back to those TFG results, when isolating September, the group reported an uptick in sales, rising 8.3% in that month alone. But of course, that wasn't enough to boost overall sales, as we saw a decline for the 6-month period. Now, back to that resale sales print, the sector posted a rise in purchases in all 3 months of the third quarter, bringing growth for Q3 to 2%. Expectations are for an even stronger fourth quarter performance as purchasing power increases on the back of improved economic conditions, which of course coincide with Black Friday and the festive season.
So with all eyes on the South African Reserve Bank and the Monetary Policy Committee, what kind of a trading day can we expect today?
So ahead of that big announcement, local markets could be in for a green day despite downbeat global markets action. Optimism locally being fueled by improved business sentiment and a slowdown in inflation. The local currency, however, shrugging off the positivity, being influenced by increased geopolitical tensions. It's currently trading at 18.30 to the dollar. Meanwhile, in Wall Street, futures in the red as traders track developments playing out between Russia and Ukraine, while also digesting earnings from Target and Nvidia. Then over in Asia, those markets poised to close in negative territory, driven by the decline in the tech sector in that region, as Nvidia's quarterly numbers not enough to excite investors.
All right, thank you for that. Have a great day. That's Ntaoleng Lechela. She's been watching economics, business, and the markets for you over the past 2.5 to 3 hours here on the show.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take 1 or 2 voice notes. Let's take this one that has to do with spaza shops.
Hi, Thulas and your team. Good morning and lovely South Africans. It's Eddie from Ondalsres. Now, I don't think there will be a big gap. The gap will be there, but that gap will be filled by those who will aspire to reopen these spaza shops. So we shouldn't be intimidated by whether there'll be that gap or whatever. It creates an opportunity for us just, as the nation to rise, to say, why have we let that space to be occupied by people who don't belong to this country? Eddie from Ondalsres.
I hear you, Eddie, and I take the point that you make, that in the event of the closure of spaza shops owned especially by undocumented foreign nationals, there wouldn't be a gap because, you know, the locals would rise up to that. And I take your point, especially in the context of some of the support that we are told will be extended by government to those who want to open spaza shops. Point taken.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. South Africa has a high birth rate of approximately 1,000 births per year. So how do you reduce unemployment in a country that has a population that is growing that fast? Where are the jobs going to come from for all of these children that are being born per year? Compounded with a problem of an economy that is not growing. And lastly, South Africa is not the country with the highest unemployment rate in the world. We are seen as such just because we have a good, credible national statistic agency called Stats SA. Now, most African countries don't have good, credible national statistic agencies, and you'll be amazed to find that unemployment in most of these African countries is hovering around 90 to 100%. Thanks, Lionel Whitbank.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lionel. Basic economics, that the population growth rate should always, lag behind the economic growth rate. It's basics. And thank you for re-emphasizing all of that. And I think the guys at Stats SA will be happy to hear that compliment that you pay to them. Let me take a call from Tando, who wants to talk about Vodacom. Good morning to you, Tando. I imagine it's about this court case that's going back to the Constitutional Court.
Sure, it's about the invention in terms of what is due to the guy. Now, my question, because I haven't heard this question asked, what about the other networks? Aren't they supposed to compensate, or is it they bought it from Vodacom, so they settle that one and they can freely use it? How does it work?
Sure, I can't claim to know the answer, but what I do know, Wenatando, is that around the same time, MTN was also working on a separate initiative of their own. But in this particular case, the reason why Vodacom is locked into this situation is that as the Constitutional Court has found now, it bound itself to a contract that has been accepted from the 2016 case at the Constitutional Court, that it formed a contract that said he would be compensated for his idea. He was acknowledged in an internal newsletter telling everyone, this guy has come up with a great idea, he will be compensated. So it boils down, I think, in this instance, to a contractual obligation that arose between the two parties.
And do you recall that previous CEO, he actually claimed it as his own, and the way he came about it, he saw this guy, and then he actually thought, hey, this guy is struggling, he's a security guy. And I was thinking to myself, those guys, they don't even look at those people. I mean, it was quite a shame.
Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah,
the guy is supposed to get what he deserves, and actually, I imagine his generation of his, actually, they wouldn't, the other guy, the other day calculated, and it kind of figured out, but generation of his family who don't have to go to work.
Sure.
And money for good.
All right, Tando, thank you. That's Tando there, talking about the issue of Vodacom. Let's speak to Lala in Polokwane. Good morning to you, Lala. You want to talk to me about spaza shops?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. The issue of the spaza shop, I want to agree with what the Operation Vigila is doing, even though I don't agree with some of the sentiment that they're making. I just want to take you a little bit to a theory. There's a theory called Potter's 5, when you are trying to analyze an industry or a sector. In this case, we'll be analyzing the sector that is called the sponsorship sector. There are five forces, and I want to talk to you only about three so that you can understand. The first one is a barrier of entry. The second one is the bargaining power of suppliers and the bargaining powers of customers. So those people who are saying this thing of us as the South African competing with the foreign nationals in the sponsorship industry is not going to be possible anymore, because these guys, they came in, they made sure that they lower their prices because they've been selling the counterfeit goods, and they lower the prices so that they lock all the doors that the locals can enter that industry anymore. So the locals cannot enter that industry anymore. Secondly, because they come from outside, being subsidized by their government or whoever was subsidizing them, they came with a lot of money. They've been able to manipulate those legitimate suppliers like the bakeries and the others that are around. And the last one, now with the bargaining power of the customers can't go anywhere anymore. I want to tell you that was part of my MBA research, and I found that the guys, even when the people in the area, even when they are not happy about the service or the quality of food that they get from the scholarship. But they are saying to me they cannot go anywhere. They are just
no
supposed to
options.
go back.
All
Yes.
right. Thank you for that, Lala. I could tell that you have studied this issue at some length there. That's Lala in Polokwane weighing in on spaza shops.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A lot of blockages around Pretoria this morning. These are some of the routes you might want to avoid. Solomon Mishlangu moving through Pretoria East down towards Old Farm Road. R21, heavy queues there. Monument Park through Fountain Circle both ways. N4, Emalafeni Highway through Vartamere down towards the N1 and the top end of the N14 Ben Skuman Highway backlogging into the city centre as well. Joburg, the R21 North remains heavy for motorists leaving the airport up towards Pretoria into the roadwork section. Earlier crash on the southbound side, which also contributed to that delay, has been cleared, but the northbound really struggling. Breakdown on the M1 North going into the William Mandela exit, so quite a heavy backlog from Malabongwe Drive. And of course, still no traffic lights, so once you get past that truck, you've still got a sentence of traffic coming off the highway, the William Mandela N1 and William Mandela and Sloane. Both of those lights are down. N2 South in Durban, broken down. The truck still with us, been there since about 6 o'clock this morning at Spaghetti Junction. Traffic remains jam-packed from Inunda Road, and a lot of pressure N2 South between Prospector and Joyner Road into the closure. The side road's very busy. There is some talk that road may be reopened either today or tomorrow. I would think within the next 24, 48 hours, we will be looking at some capacity reopening on the N2 southbound. So that's a very good news indeed. Well done to Sanrail and the teams employed to get that collapsed bridge fixed up. A reopening imminent. Cape Town this morning, pretty busy on the highways. N1 inbound, queuing from Plattekloof Hill through to the city centre. N2 still at Bunga Avenue Langa through to Hospital Bend, and still pretty busy coming through the Tableview area this morning on your way into Milnerton. Kuberg Road through Milnerton, and also the Marine Drive option to the Woodbridge Island area. Both of those routes very busy. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Gunners of London are gunning for victory in their own backyard when they tackle Nottingham Forest.
He's done well, Martinelli, chance for Arsenal here, Martinelli scores!
But the Tricky Trees refuse to remove their foot off the pedal as they navigate a way to the top 5.
And headed in! It's a goal for Forest, and it's Murillo!
This is the Premier League. Catch the incredible encounter between Arsenal FC and Nottingham Forest FC on Saturday, 23 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Insurance are experts in what they do.
They get to understand what type of business are you doing so that they can insure you properly.
It actually validates why we're with them. If you haven't called Outsurance yet, what are you waiting for?
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
8 minutes to 9. Let's turn our attention to this story now. The country is set to observe 16 days of activism for no violence against women in over a week's time. This comes amid mounting calls for the government to address contributing factors to the growing number of gender-based violence cases. Experts say the country has great policies to deal with GBV, but the implementation lacks. Let's bring into the conversation Advocate Brenda Madumise, who is the director of WISE for Africa and also a GBV and anti-GBV activist. Good morning to you, Advocate, and thank you for your time. Do you agree with that analysis? Let's start there. Do you agree with that analysis that commitments are there, policies are there, it's just the implementation that lacks?
Yeah, I think, good morning to Thulasizwe and to your listeners. It's a combination of things, but I think uppermost is that we've got the framework that assists us to know where to start and what to do. And the challenge is, how do you make those policies a reality for many South Africans? And that's a big challenge. I think because there is a silo mentality in how you respond to many things in this country. And when you look at gendered violence separate from everything else, you are going to have these challenges because you are not seeing it as a comprehensive and centralize it in your articulation and in your response and execution of any other policy that you need to execute. So once you look at it in a silo and not adjacent to almost all the other challenges that you have, whether it's in education, health, transport, and all of that, we're going to have this problem of not implementing.
Yeah, and in a timely manner, then the Human Sciences Research Council recently came out with the study, the first of its kind, to look into the prevalence and the experience, the levels of experience of gender-based violence in our society. Do you believe that color that study adds, as far as prevalence and social attitudes are concerned, will spur on the implementation of some of the long agreed to commitments, such as those contained in the National Strategic Plan Against Gender-Based Violence?
Yeah, I think it assists in the sense that it's credible research that is done by a reputable institution, correct? And it then gives you the basis, and this baseline that we've been talking about, because for the longest of time we have been thumb-sucking the stats, and we were not comfortable in relying on police stats, right? And what this study shows is that gendered violence in its totality is underreported, right? So this study helps those who have been doubting what was being said for many years. It illuminates some of these issues. It highlights and lifts out some of the issues that will surprise many. And I think because it's a national survey on prevalence and victimization of those who experience gendered violence, it's telling, and it requires that policymakers, those who implement government policy, and others who are not in the government spaces, whether it's private sector, whether it's trade unions, whether it's political parties, whether it's civil society organizations, whether it's churches, whether it's traditional leaders, all of us, we now need to engage with that study and understand the manifestations of gendered violence and how we then take forward those implementations. And the agency is now. So we can't keep on looking at it and studying it without literally the presidency who commissioned this study through the National Strategic Plan then has to bring all the stakeholders around the table and say, how do we ensure that these implementations become a reality?
And I was struck there, Advocate, by the social attitudes that came through, particularly the attitudes of men, including, of course, that statistic that talks about the majority of men in this country believing that women should obey their husbands and the entitlement to sexual relations and the likes. Given that this is an all-of-society situation, that, some interventions are within the purview of government, the justice system, reporting lines, etc., but other aspects are not necessarily within the purview of government. How would we go about addressing those underlying social attitudes that came through in that study?
It's about us in our social spaces, talking about such, right? It's us in the work that you do in different spaces that we need to articulate and share what this report says and talk about these attitudes that we have. It's you and your bros when you are having a braai talking about it. It's us in different spaces where we engage to talk about our attitude and how they contribute in fueling misogyny, fueling toxicity, fueling violence, right? So it's where we have the opportunity to talk, to dialogue. We should use those spaces to do so, whether it's in our engagement at Stockfell level, it's at family level. We need to have these uncomfortable, heated discussions, and we can't hide ourselves and pretend that these things are not happening. We have to, someone needs to, on Christmas Day, during these holidays, we have a conversation at home when we are having a nice meal and say, what's our thinking? Why do we think these things happen? Why do we think Malume has been doing these things? We have to confront those uncomfortable conversations, and we must have them.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for that. That's Advocate Brenda Madumise, who is the Director of WISE for Africa and a anti-gender-based violence activist, bringing to the fore really some of these hard conversations that we need to be having among ourselves, given the scourge of gender-based violence that we face in this country. It's almost at the end of the show. I must remind you that the SAFM lecture is taking place this evening. It will be at Birchwood in Boksburg. Of course, if you have RSVP'd, because we did ask that you book your seat. If you have done that, I will see you there, and I look forward to it. It will be delivered by former Minister Naledi Pandor, and I look forward to hearing in what direction she will be pulling on, which threads she will be pulling at and what challenges she will lay for all of us. I'll be there this evening, and I hope to see you there if you have RSVP'd. That's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. Thanks for listening. Thank you for engaging, and thanks to the team that put it all together. The Talking Point with Kethi Mohlahlane, KG Mwekets is standing in, and that's coming up after the news here on SAFM. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, another child dies from alleged food poisoning in Soweto, and Mafube municipality's financial woes deepen. Good morning. Another alleged food poisoning incident has claimed the life of a 5-year-old boy in Diepkloof in Soweto. 3 other young boys are in a critical condition in hospital. It's believed the children took ill after they ate snacks bought from a local spaza shop in the area yesterday. Ward Councillor Brenda Dami has condemned the incident.
The 4 young kids, 5-year-old, went and bought snacks. Hardly 20 minutes after eating that snacks, the other boy became sick and he was rushed in the hospital. Hardly 30 minutes, it was announced that the boy died. The other 3, the friends, were also taken to the hospital. And we're all furious because we can't be losing our children every day. The problem lies with the house owners because they're the ones that are keeping these people in their houses and let them open. I'm just so frustrated.
Meanwhile, Gauteng police have opened an inquest docket following the incident. Gauteng police spokesperson Dimakatso Nebuhulwi.
According to reports, the child was vomiting and had a runny stomach before being taken to a local clinic where he was declared dead. The cause of death is unknown at this stage, pending autopsy results.
Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe has submitted that the High Court in Pretoria cannot assist the illegal miners in Stilfontein in the northwest to evade arrest. This is contained in the answering affidavit deposed by the Principal Inspector of Mines on behalf of the department. The minister is cited as the 4th respondent in the matter in which the organization Society for the Protection of Our Constitution seeks an urgent interdict. The High Court will hear the main application today, where the applicant seeks relief that the unlicensed diggers be provided with emergency relief in the form of water, food and blankets, among others. Zoleka Kodashe reports.
The main question contained in the 4th respondent's answering affidavit is what the logic is behind the applicant seeking a mandatory interdict to provide all necessary emergency disaster relief for the suspected illegal miners when an alternative and safer exit has been provided. It's argued that 500 of the unlicensed diggers have already emerged through this alternative route and that those who remain underground are in fact not trapped.
The financial woes of embattled Mafube municipality in the Free State are far from over, as workers' salaries have allegedly gone unpaid and third parties are also getting affected. The municipality workers have not been able to claim from the two-pot system as the municipality has not been contributing. This led to the Free State High Court ordering the municipality pay back the workers' pension funds contributions totaling 37 million rand. Mafube Municipal Manager Tusi Lipiana.
We do have money to rent our services. We do have money to pay salaries. What we don't have is the money to pay the debts. That one we honestly do not have at the moment. That's why we are saying we are having a payment plan. There is a financial recovery plan that was developed with the assistance of National Treasury. We are implementing that, and then it is helping this because of that financial recovery plan that we are able now to move towards being a properly sustainable municipality.
Further relief is anticipated for South African consumers as the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee is widely expected to announce a rate cut this afternoon following its meeting. During its last announcement in September, the central bank decided to reduce the rates by 25 basis points, putting the repo rate at 8%, making it the first rate cut in almost 4 years. Expectations of a rate cut was sparked by low inflation. Frank Blackmore is the lead economist at KPMG.
Very low as far as inflation is concerned. In fact, not only is it below the midpoint of the target range, it's below the target range itself, the old 3 to 6%. I think it's 2.8. So this would actually be able to justify perhaps a larger decrease or a larger cut to take place, maybe a 50 basis points cut in November, and then perhaps incorporating also the 25 basis points that we also expect in January.
Recapping the top story, another alleged food poisoning incident has claimed the life of a 5-year-old boy in Diepkloof in Soweto. 3 other young boys are in a critical condition in hospital. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a code today. SMS CAR to 43187.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
47-year-old Abna loves Outsurance Essential because it's low-cost insurance made for older cars. For his 2006 Opel Corsa Utility 1.4, he only pays 253 Rand a month. With Outsurance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. Top this up with the motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. The Talking Point on SAFM. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
In the month of May 1963, the leaders of the then independent African countries assembled in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And many speeches were delivered, and the thrust of all the speeches was that African countries, having regained their independence, their primary focus and objective was to ensure that they exercised their regained mandate for the benefit of the people to ensure that the people were liberated from ignorance, disease, and poverty. On the 24th day of May, perhaps the most powerful speech ever made by an African leader was delivered by Ghana's Kwame Nkrumah. And he reminded the leaders who were present on that day about a number of things. One, he told them that not to delude themselves, that by regaining their independence, the erstwhile colonizer would recoil and remain inactive. That in fact, the erstwhile colonial master was going to be more pernicious, but in a very subtle way. Kwame Nkrumah was right. He reminded his audience that going forward it was necessary and indeed urgent that Africans should begin to think as one whole, because if they remained in disunity, they would remain weak and vulnerable and therefore susceptible to manipulation. Kwame Nkrumah was right. He reminded his audience that because many of, if not all, of the African countries were artificial, they were created in Berlin, and the boundaries were artificial. But he urged his audience that they should respect the inviolability of the boundaries, because if they tried to redraw the boundaries, conflict would never end. And that was reinforced in 1964 in Cairo on the doctrine of inviolability of inherited boundaries. I remind us of this particular incident 58 years ago because in 2013, the African Union came with Agenda 2063. And if you look at the text of Agenda 2063 and the speeches that were given around it, it was the rehash of what Kwame spoke about and the other leaders spoke about.
That's Professor Patrick Lumumba, the Kenyan academic, giving us the opening motivation for this Thursday. Welcome to Thursday's edition of the Talking Point. I'm Khomotso KG Mwekete. I'm in for Kathy Mushatlana. It's Thursday, the 21st of November. If it's your birthday, by the way, happy birthday to you. We are SFM leading the conversation, and our studio numbers. We are leading the conversation that moves you, and our studio numbers. If you want to be in touch with us, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032, the SMS line 41391. 41391 will come to you at 150, and on WhatsApp 061 410 4107. On X, we are at SFM Radio, and please hashtag SFM Talking Point when you talk to us. Coming up on the program today, we open the lines for you between now and 10 o'clock to hear what's on your mind. Thulasizwe had a lot going on this morning. After 10, it's Municipal Watch Thursday. Tshwane is on the spotlight. Tshwane, the Tshwane municipality is dealing with spaza shops themselves as the country continues to deal with the problem of spaza shops, as the issue of contaminated foods is killing or continuing to kill children in townships. As you heard, another child died in Soweto. It's being reported in the news today. Last week, Friday, as you know, the president addressed the nation. He announced that all food handling facilities, including spaza shops, must be registered in municipalities. In the municipalities they operate within 21 working days, and it's put pressure on municipalities to enforce what the president said. This morning, we thought to hear how Tshwane is dealing with it. They are raiding shops. We know that in the current week, they are raiding shops. Councillor Sarah Mabutsa is the MMC for Economic Development. She said she'll give us only 20 minutes. She'll be here between 10 and 10:30. She's the MMC for Economic Development and Spatial Planning at the City of Tshwane. She'll be here between 10 and 10:30. And then Debho Kas at 10:30, the the president of the SMME Forum, will talk to us about where the government is approaching, or how he sees the way the government is approaching the spaza shop situation, and if, according to him, it's the right way. And after 11, we're going to talk to, we're going to get educated about the Government Pensions Administration Agency as to who they are, what they do. The CEO has been in the office for a 2-year period and wonders how it's been and the sort of challenges that she has faced. The two-pot system is probably one of the issues that has been at the top of her agenda. The unclaimed benefits, we're going to hear from her about her journey. Her name is Kidiboni Mudiye, the CEO of the Government Pensions Administration's Agency, at 11:30, so it's a busy day for us. The inaugural Embassy's Business Fair. It's a good news story about our economy, in that the city of Joburg is hosting more than 120 business leaders and representatives from over 30 embassies at the inaugural Embassy's Business Fair and Conference, which started on Wednesday and ends today. It's an event that is set to create significant trade opportunities and forge innovative partnerships between local and international businesses. And Sihle Dube will be here. It's another big day, right? It's another big day if you are Nkosana Makate, because he's going to the Concord today. That's what's on my mind. He's going to the Concord today for his Please Call Me situation. Vodacom has spent over 100 million rand allegedly defending themselves. Remember, the Supreme Court that had said, give him 47 million rand? And he said 47 million rand is not good enough. I think what he wants is over 9 billion rand. I can't, that kind of money, I don't even know the amount of zeros in my head. My head just goes, ging, 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 ging. My head just goes, I guess sure, But he's at the Constitutional Court today, and we're watching. We're interested. We are keen to hear how Tswana is dealing with the issue of the spaza shops. We're sad again to hear that another day, another child dies in Soweto. Right, of food poisoning. It's like another day, another child dies of food poisoning. Right, and I think it must be hard to be a parent of children who lives in the township, because with all your best intention, you can say to your child, don't buy at the spaza shop. But children are children. Right? They can be playing in the street and a friend says, I've got this, let's share. And they have it. They didn't buy, they shared with a friend. They didn't buy, they shared with a friend. So they still listen to the parent. So it must be very frustrating to be a parent for parents in areas that have spaza shops, because with all your best intentions, you're trying your very best to protect your child, to make sure that your child does not get exposed to the contaminated foods. But how? How can you make sure that they don't eat it? Because it's accessible, it's there. Because the one thing you'll never say to a child is don't play with other kids. Play is how kids grow. So I want to hear what is on your mind, and I want to hear what you're hoping Mr. Makate gets at the Constitutional Court, because he's brought in international lawyers himself. The one thing I know about lawyers is most of the don't say anything to another famous lawyer who's a politician.